Hey everyone, tonight we're going to slip into the cold, echoing halls of a place they call the Sad Inside. A castle that's been under siege for 6 months, half a year of desperation, rumors, and the kind of bad decisions that only come when you're really, truly out of options. You're going to be there too, wandering these drafty corridors as if they're your own. Imagine it. The gates battered and battered again. Metal dented like an old drumhead. Banners ripped into ghosts of color. The scent of ash clings to the air, and the walls themselves seem to sigh every time you lean against them. Your boots crunch over cracked flagstones, and each step sends a puff of dust swirling into the thick, smoky air. Historians still debate whether this castle was ever meant to hold out for this long. But you're here now, and I'm not letting you off easy. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And don't forget to comment with your location and local time. I like to imagine how far the sad inside reaches. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get down to business tonight. You trudge forward, fingers brushing the cold, pitted surface of the main gates. Their once proud iron-bound oak is splintered, and a haphazard barricade of barrels, torn shields, and broken furniture stands in front of them. It's a defense born of desperation, not strategy. The air is sharp with the tang of stale sweat and the musk of fear, like the world forgot how to be anything but tense. You are not sure who you're supposed to be in all this. Defender, interloper, chronicler. The castle doesn't care. The sad inside is bigger than your identity. It's an old, half-forgotten poem in stone. Tonight you're a line in it, whether you want to be or not. As you slip through a gap in the barricade, a sudden gust of wind slaps your face, cold and heavy with the promise of more snow. It seems to seep into your bones, each breath a bite of winter. The clink of your belt buckle echoes in the empty courtyard, and somewhere a cat yowls like a lost soul. You pause, because in the middle of this ruined courtyard, someone has tried to plant a garden rows of cabbages in broken crates, herbs sprouting from cracked chamber pots. It's a stubborn patch of green, the color of defiance. But the leaves are rimed with frost, sagging under the weight of the siege. A sentry watches you from the battlements, his hood pulled low, the crossbow resting on the wall beside him. He's wrapped in furs that have seen better days. Rabbit, maybe fox, definitely second-hand. He doesn't move, just follows you with tired eyes. There's no hostility there, just the quiet understanding that everything in this place has become a question of survival. The gatehouse to your left is half collapsed, a ragged tooth of stone and timber. You can see where cannonballs punched through it, leaving gaps big enough to let the cold in, but small enough to keep out hope. You skirt the edge of the rubble, your breath fogging in the icy air. Inside the main gatehouse arch, a battered iron portcullis hangs askew. The winch chain is snapped, the teeth of the gate frozen in place like the jaws of a dead thing. You duck under it, the metal cold against your shoulders. Beyond it, a guard dog lies curled in a nest of rags. One ear flicks up as you pass, but it doesn't bark. It's too tired for that. Even the animals know there's no winning here. You slip into a smaller courtyard, where the snow has been trampled into a crusty grey slush. A child's toy, a wooden horse with a broken wheel, lies half buried by the snowdrift. You bend to pick it up, and for a moment you can almost hear the laughter of the child who once pushed it across these stones. Almost. You straighten and look round. The outer walls loom overhead, jagged with the scars of cannon fire. Icicles hang from the eaves, long glassy fangs that glitter in the moonlight. A banner still flutters on the highest, are 3 red crows on a field of white. It's tattered and sun-bleached, but it flutters on, a heartbeat of color against the sky. The runner slips past you, cloak flapping, breath coming in sharp gasps. He's carrying a message. No doubt maybe a plea for help that will never come. Or maybe just the daily count of bread crusts left in the pantry, in the sad inside. Bread crusts can be more important than promises. You can hear the distant boom of cannons beyond the walls. Each thud is a punch to the chest, a reminder that the enemy is patient, relentless, and probably a little bored by now. Siege warfare isn't exactly glamorous, it's a slow, grinding attrition that eats at your mind more than your body. You pause at a window slit, peeking through to the night beyond. The moon is fat and yellow, hanging low like a jaundiced eye. The world outside these walls is just as cold, but it's free. Or so you'd like to believe. A quick fact to keep you awake. Did you know that during some medieval sieges, defenders would catapult rotting animal carcasses over the walls to spread disease? It's called biological warfare, 14th century style. There's no sign of that here yet, but the stench of rotting food from the abandoned storerooms hints at how close they're getting to that level of desperation. You step back from the window slit, shoulders hunched. There's no comfort here, just the sense that you're part of something bigger, darker, and older than your own worries. The sad inside doesn't care if you're afraid it's been standing for centuries, and it plans to stand for centuries more. Even if the people within crumble first, you keep moving. Because in this place, standing still is just another way to let the cold in. Your feet crunch through the snow-crusted path, each step an act of defiance against the siege that waits beyond. The cold seeps through your boots. Your breath is a ghost on the air, and the silence is heavy as iron. But here you are, in the sad inside, and you're not going anywhere, at least not tonight. You breathe in deep, letting the scent of rot and gunpowder settle on your tongue like a bitter reminder. The courtyard might be quiet, but the smell of old blood, dampened, and the acrid tang of spent powder is anything but shy. You stand still for a moment, trying to let it wash over you. There's something oddly honest about it. The world out there might be polite and clean, but here, the air tastes like every sin committed to keep this castle standing. A gust of wind whips past you, and you wrap your cloak tight around your shoulders. It doesn't help. The cold has teeth tonight, biting through wool and linen, and it's got no interest in letting you forget where you are. You shuffle forward, slipping on the icy cobblestones. It's a dance, really a little slip here, a little shuffle there, like you're just one misstep away from becoming another body to feed the rats. You pass a barrel propped up against the wall, cracked open and reeking of vinegar and something that might have once been wine. The smell makes your stomach turn. Someone's idea of a treat. Maybe. Or maybe they're just trying to forget how long this siege has been dragging on. Remember crocodile poops on screen? Yeah. It's got nothing on the stink of this place. You try not to breathe too deep. But every breath is a gulp of history and desperation. You slip into a narrow passageway. Walls damp with frost. Your footsteps echo, muffled by the snow that drifts in through shattered windows. It's almost peaceful, if you can ignore the faint boom of cannons in the distance. Almost you find a door half off its hinges, paint peeling like old scabs, and nudge it open with your foot. It swings wide, revealing a cramped chamber pile with barrels of black powder. The air is thick with the scent of sulfur, sharp and metallic. You can almost taste the promise of violence in the back of your throat. A man stands in the middle of it all, sleeves rolled to the elbows, fingers blackened with soot. He's packing powder into clothsacks, eyes darting to the doorway as you enter. He doesn't speak, just nods once, as if to say, yes, this is what we do now. There's no pride in it, no shame either, just necessity. Historians still debate whether the castle's defenders were truly prepared for a siege this long, or if they simply got lucky. If luck is what you call running out of everything except gunpowder and stale air. The man picks up a small barrel, tests its weight. then sets it down again. You can see the tremor in his hands to many nights of cold and little to eat. He glances at you again, and you see something in his eyes that looks like apology, or maybe just resignation. You back out of the chamber and let the door swing shut behind you. The castle has become a storehouse of violence and broken dreams, and you're not sure which way is more. You follow the corridor deeper, the scent of gunpowder still clinging to your hair. You find another room, this one with a cracked window that lets in a sliver of moonlight. The floor is littered with broken arrows, their shafts snapped like twigs. A tattered banner hangs on the wall, its colors faded to ghostly whispers of red and gold. You brush your hand across the banner's ragged edge, feeling the threads unravel beneath your fingertips. Once, this was a symbol of power. Now it's just another relic of the past. A promise that no one can keep. A sudden shout echoes down the corridor sharp. Desperate, you turn, heart hammering, and see a boy no older than 12 sprinting past, clutching a small keg of powder to his chest. His eyes are wide, cheeks flushed with cold and fear. You wonder if he even knows what he's carrying, if he understands that this powder could blow the whole castle sky-dash high. You watch him vanish round a corner, the echo of his footsteps fading into the darkness. In another life, he'd be learning to read or playing in the snow. Here, he's a powder monkey in a game he never asked to play. You keep walking, the scent of rot growing stronger the deeper you go. It's not just the powder, there's something else, something older. You find it in the next chamber, a storeroom stacked with barrels of salted meat and hard cheese. The contents long since gone to mold. The smell is thick, a rancid perfume that makes your eyes water. You pick up a hunk of something that might have once been cheese. It crumbles in your hand, dry and brittle as old bone. You drop it, wiping your fingers on your cloak. Some things are too far gone to save. A figure moves in the shadows, an old woman with a basket slung over her shoulder. She's picking through the barrels, pulling out what's left of the edible bits. She glances up as you pass, and there's a spark in her eyes, defiance. Maybe. Or just the knowledge that she's still alive. And that's more than some can say. She hums a tune under her breath. Something soft and wordless. It's almost comforting, in a way that makes your chest ache. You nod to her and move on, letting her song follow you down the hallway. You find yourself back in the courtyard, the night pressing in on all sides. The air is colder now, sharp as a blade. You can hear the cannons more clearly, each blast a dull thud that rattles your bones. But you stand there anyway, breathing it all in the scent of rot. The powder, the smoke, and you let it settle in your lungs like a vow. Because here, in the sad inside, you don't get to choose what you breathe. You just keep going, one step at a time, until the cold or the hunger or the endless nights decide otherwise. The next day breaks with a feeble sun that barely warms the stones, and you feel it in your bones. This siege is no longer a fight. It's a ritual. You stand at the top of a keep, the highest point left in the sad inside that hasn't been reduced to rubble. From here, you can see the world beyond the walls, a winter-browned land locked in frost and silence. The enemy's campfires dot the fields like a string of dying stars. You lean over the parapet, fingers numbed against the icy stones. Below, soldiers shuffle through the snow in worn boots, carrying pails of water from the well that's still flowing, even if it tastes like rust and dirt. You watch them move with the slow, deliberate caution of men who know every step might be their last. A sudden crack of musket fire rings out, sharp and clean. You flinch, heart hammering. A puff of white smoke drifts up from the outer wall, and you watch as a man topples backward into the snow, arms flailing like a puppet whose strings have been cut. No one cries out. No one even runs to help. They just keep moving, heads down. Like death is a neighbor who's overstayed his welcome. Historians still debate whether the soldiers of the sad inside had truly lost hope by this point. or if they were simply too numb to care. You suspect it's both. Hope is a luxury in a place where the bread is stale and the water tastes like old coins. You duck back into the tower, footsteps echoing off the walls. The stairs are worn smooth by centuries of feet, and you wonder how many of those feet belonged to people just like you, tired, cold, and wondering if they'd live to see the sun rise again. The tower room at the top is a small, square chamber. Its only window a narrow slit that lets in a shaft of pale light. A chessboard sits on a barrel in the center of the room. The pieces scattered and mismatched, some carved from bone. Others just lumps of wax pressed into shape. You recognize a knight, whittled from a bit of deer antler. Its horse's head worn smooth by countless fingers. A man sits at the barrel, hunched over the board. His hair is shot with gray, his face gaunt, and his breath fogs in the cold air. He looks up as you enter, and there's a flicker of amusement in his eyes, like he knows this game has nothing to do with chess anymore. He gestures for you to sit, and you do. He pushes a pawn forward with one finger, the move deliberate and slow. Your turn. He rasps, his voice as cracked as the castle walls. You play along, moving a bishop out of harm's way. It's not about winning, you realize. It's about having something to do besides listen to the cannons dot as you play. He tells you a story about how, during the early days of the siege, the castle's cook tried to make bread from sawdust to stretch the dwindling flour. The bread was heavy, bitter, and nearly inedible, but they ate it anyway. You chuckle at the image of sawdust sandwiches, and he grins, a flash of humor in the cold. Crocodile poops on screen. You say out loud, and he blinks. You explain, and he laughs, rusty. Wheezing sound that warms the room for a moment. Laughter, you realize, is another kind of defiance in this place. The game drags on, pieces moved by frozen fingers, and neither of you bothers to keep score. Outside, the cannon thumps again, closer this time, and the walls tremble like an old dog trying to shake off the cold. You leave the old man to his board and descend the tower stairs, each step a careful negotiation between ice and gravity. In the hall below, a tapestry hangs crooked, its threads frayed and colors dulled to the palette of old memories. It shows a scene of knights in shining armor, lances lowered, charging into battle. You touch the edge of it, feeling the worn silk beneath your fingertips, and wonder if those knights would even recognize this place now. The hall beyond is empty. The only sound your own breath and the faint drip of water from a cracked pipe. You pause at a door that hangs half open, the hinges squealing like a dying gull when you push it wider. Inside is a chapel, small and cold. The altar is a simple slab of stone, dusted with snow where the wind has forced its way in. A single candle flickers in the gloom, its light a fragile promise against the dark. Someone has scratched a prayer into the wall in a shaky hand. May we outlast the winter. You step closer, tracing the words with your fingertip. They're carved deep, as if the writer wanted to make sure the stone would remember what they'd forgotten how to say out loud. You close your eyes and breathe in the cold, the scent of old wax and mildew. It's a comfort in its own way. A noise behind you, a scrape of boots on stone. You turn. There's a young woman standing there, a bundle of firewood in her arms. She nods to you, eyes wary but not unkind. Cold enough to freeze your breath, she says, and you grin despite yourself. She moves to the small brazier in the corner, feeling in the wood with careful hands. The fire catches, sputtering and spitting, and you feel a rush of warmth that's more precious than gold in this frozen world. She doesn't stay, just nods again and vanishes down the corridor, a fleeting ghost of kindness. You linger by the brazier, letting the warmth sink into your bones. Outside, the cannons keep their steady rhythm. But for a moment, it doesn't matter. For a moment, there's only the fire, the quiet, and the sense that maybe, just maybe, You can hold out another day. You move on from the chapel, your boots slipping on the thin layer of ice that has crept into every crack and crevice. The cold is a constant companion here, biting at your fingers, creeping up your spine. You keep your shoulders hunched and your head low, like a turtle trying to disappear into its shell dot in the corridor beyond. You find a group of soldiers gathered round a barrel fire. Their faces half hidden in the flickering glow. They're wrapped in every scrap of cloth they can find: blankets, cloaks, even bits of old sailcloth. One of them is telling a story, his voice low and hoarse. You catch only fragments as you pass. Something about a boy who swam the moat in the dead of night. A bottle of brandy, his stolen kiss. You keep moving. The laughter is thin and brittle, like glass about to shatter. But it's laughter, and that counts for something. At the end of the hall, you find a storeroom that's been turned into an infirmary. The air is thick with the smell of stale sweat and old blood, and you pause on the threshold, letting it wash over you inside. Cots are lined up in neat rows, each one holding a man or what's left of him. Some moan softly, others lie still, eyes staring at nothing. A woman moves between the cots, her hands red to the wrists. She's young, but the shadows under her eyes make her look older. She glances at you, but doesn't stop working, binding a wound with strips of cloth that used to be a fine linen shirt. They say the enemy is starving, too. She mutters as she works, not that it helps us any. Historians still debate whether the castle's defenders truly believed their enemies suffered as much as they did, or if that was just another story they told themselves to keep from going mad. You step inside, careful not to brush against the cots. The floor is slick with meltwater, and the cold seems to have settled here, heavy as a shroud. You pause by one of the beds, a boy no older than 16. His face pale and slick with sweat. His eyes flutter open, and he manages a faint smile. You got any stories? He asks. Voice barely more than a breath. You smile back, though your heart is heavy. I might, you say, and you start talking about crocodile poops on screen. About ancient Roman dentists with drills made from flint. About anything, the cannon fire and the hunger that stalks these halls. He listens, his eyes bright for a moment. And then he's asleep again, lost to whatever dreams a boy can have in a place like this. You slip back out into the corridor, the echoes of your own voice following you like ghosts outside. The day is already fading, the sun retreating behind thick clouds that promise snow. You make your way down to the main gate, where a group of soldiers are working with the grim determination of men who know the end is coming. They're stacking barrels, wine, powder, anything that might slow the enemy down when they finally break through. One of them glances at you, his face smudged with soot and sweat. They say the enemy's got new cannons, he says, his voice rough, biggest they've ever seen, called the Imperial Thunder. He grins, though there's no humor in it. Sounds impressive, doesn't it, you nod? Though the words make your stomach twist. You've heard the cannon, felt its deep, bone-shaking rumble through the walls. The Imperial Thunder, it's a name that echoes in your mind like a death knell. You held them for a while, your fingers numb from the cold and the rough wood of the barrels. You can't do much, but it feels like something, and that's enough for now. When the barrels are stacked and the soldiers move off, you linger by the gate, listening to the distant roar of the Imperial Thunder. It's closer than before, the sound rolling over the fields like a promise. You can almost feel the earth tremble beneath your feet. You duck into a side passage, seeking shelter from the wind. The passage is narrow and dark, the stone slick with damp. You follow it down to a hidden chamber, a place you remember. In the flickering light of your lantern, you see it, a small shrine tucked into a corner. The walls are covered in carvings, crude figures, animals, shapes that mean something only to those who made them. One figure catches your eye, a bird with outstretched wings, soaring above the waves. You touch it lightly, feeling the grooves worn deep by centuries of hands. A symbol of hope, maybe, or of freedom. Or maybe just a reminder that the world is bigger than these walls. You stay there for a while, listening to the wind sigh through the cracks. The cold seeps into your bones. But you don't move. There's something comforting in the quiet, in the knowledge that even here, there are stories older than war and hunger. When you finally stand, your legs are stiff. Your breath a white cloud in the dark. You make your way back to the upper hall, where the soldiers are lighting torches against the growing dark. The firelight flickers on the walls, casting long shadows that dance like ghosts. You find a place by one of the braziers, your hands outstretched to the wall. The air smells of smoke and sweat. But you don't mind. You're alive, and for now, that's enough. Someone passes round a flask, the contents sharp and bitter on your tongue. It burns all the way down. You're grateful for the heat. The soldiers trade jokes, their laughter bright in the gloom. One of them tells a story about a chicken that survived a cannonball. Headless, but still running, he says, and you can't help but laugh. It's absurd. But it's also a reminder that even in a place like this, life finds a way to keep going. You close your eyes, listening to the murmur of voices and the crackle of the fire outside. The imperial thunder rumbles again. But for now, you're warm and you're not alone. The next morning, you wake to the sound of distant drumming, a rhythm that's part threat, part promise. The enemy's army is on the move again. Though you can't see them from here, only the black smoke that coils into the sky like a funeral shroud. You rub your eyes, your breath steaming in the cold air, and try to remember what it felt like to sleep without dreaming of cannon fire. You shuffle down the corridor, your feet heavy. The walls feel closer today, as if the whole castle is shrinking round you. You pass the mess hall, where soldiers sit hunched over bowls of thin gruel. The smell of it is enough to make your stomach turn watery broth and stale bread that tastes of dust. But it's food, and you choke it down anyway. A young boy sits across from you, his eyes wide and hollow. He's got a scrap of cloth tied round his arm, a makeshift bandage that's already stained through. He doesn't say much, just eats, spoon scraping against the bowl. You wonder what he's thinking. If he's imagining the fields beyond the walls, or if he's already given up on seeing them again. You finish your meal and stand, your legs stiff from the cold outside. The snow has started again, fine flakes that swirl in the wind like ash. You pull your cloak tight around your shoulders and head up to the courtyard. The snow muffles everything, turning the world soft and quiet. You pause by the well, watching as a soldier hauls up a bucket of water. It sloshes over the sides, icy droplets freezing on the stones. You take the bucket from him. Your hands go numb at the touch and carry it to the kitchen's dot inside. The cooks move with the resigned precision of men who know every scrap counts. A pot of stew bubbles on the hearth, thin and pale. One of them, a man with a crooked nose and a permanent scowl, ladles out a portion for you, carefully. He says, "It's hot, but not enough to warm your soul." You take the bowl and move to the corner, where a small window lets in a sliver of light. You sip the stew, it tastes like salt and desperation, but it's better than nothing. Historians still debate whether the siege was harder on the soldiers or the civilians who clung to the castle's crumbling walls. You think it's a pointless question. Hunger doesn't care if you wear a uniform or a ragged cloak, it gnaws at everyone the same. You leave the kitchens and make your way to the ramparts. The snow has already started to pile up, turning the battlements into a white line against the grey sky. You run your gloved hand along the stones, feeling the chill seep through. The view from up here is both beautiful and terrible. The fields beyond the walls are a patchwork of white and brown, dotted with the dark shapes of the enemy's tents. The siege lines snake across the land, a ring of iron that tightens a little more each day. You spot the Imperial Thunder, the great cannon that has haunted your dreams. It sits like a sleeping beast on the far side of the field, its barrel black and slick with snow. Even from here, you can see the gunners working, swaddled in thick coats against the cold. The soldier next to you mutters a curse under his breath. "They'll fire again soon," he says, his voice tight. They're always testing the walls, looking for the weakest spot. You nod, though you don't really want to think about it. You shift your gaze to the horizon, where the sky is a pale wash of light. Somewhere out there, beyond the siege lines and the snow, the world is still turning. But here, it feels like time has stopped. You turn away from the battlements, your breath coming in short, frosty bursts. Down in the yard, a group of children are playing in the snow, their laughter bright against the hush. They chase each other round a half-frozen fountain, their cheeks red with cold. It's a small miracle, that laughter proof that even in the shadow of death, life goes on. You watch them for a moment, then head back inside. The halls are quieter now, the echo of your footsteps the only sound. You find yourself in the great hall, a cavernous space that once hosted feasts and dances. Now, it's a shelter for the weary soldiers dozing on benches, mothers rocking babies who cry too softly to be heard over the crackle of the fire. You sit for a while, letting the warmth of the hearth sink into your bones. You think of all the stories this hall must have seen, kings and queens, banquets and betrayals. Now, it's just another refuge from the cold. Someone brings out a battered lute, its strings worn but still able to coax out a tune. The music drifts through the hall, soft and sweet. You close your eyes, letting it wash over you like a warm blanket. You hum along under your breath, the notes a fragile thread that ties you to this moment, to this place. A soldier leans over, his breath heavy with the smell of cheap wine. Ever hear the one about the dancing goat? He asks, his grin crooked. You raise an eyebrow, and he launches into the story, a tale of a goat that could prance better than any nobleman. Also, he says, it's absurd, and you can't help but laugh. The sound of bomb against the cold. The music plays on, the laughter echoing off the stone walls. Outside, the Imperial Thunder rumbles, a distant growl that shakes the stones beneath your feet. But in here, for now, there is warmth and music and the quiet, defiant promise of another day. You wake up in the early hours of the morning, the world outside still wrapped in darkness. The air in the castle feels brittle, every breath sharp and cold. You stretch, joints creaking like old wood, and pull your cloak tight around your shoulders. Today, you tell yourself, today you'll find something to hold on to. You make your way down to the stores, where the quartermaster keeps his dwindling supplies. He's there already, a thin man with eyes like flint, counting out beans one by one. Rations are tighter than ever. He mutters as you approach, "We'll be down to rats soon enough." He pauses, then adds with a crooked smile, "And that's if we're lucky." You help him for a while, stacking sacks of grain that feel lighter with each passing day. The work warms your blood, even if it's only a temporary relief. You try not to think about how many mouths there are to feed, or how quickly the stores are shrinking. One of the sacks splits open as you lift it, a cascade of dried peas rolling across the floor. You scramble to gather them up, feeling foolish for the clumsiness. The quartermaster just shakes his head. "Don't worry," he says. "It's not like we're going to run out of dust anytime soon." You smile weakly and move on, your thoughts heavy. In the corridors beyond, the castle's children are playing at knights and dragons with sticks for swords. You pause to watch them. Their laughter bright and fearless. You wonder how they can pretend so well. How they can keep the darkness at bay with nothing but a woodman's sword and a wild imagination. One of them, a girl with a ragged blue ribbon in her hair, sees you watching. She marches up to you, chin lifted in proud defiance. Are you a knight? She asks, her voice fierce. Because I'm a princess, and I command you to join my army. You bow low, playing along. At your service, princess, you say, and she grins, eyes shining. Then help her defeat the dragon, she says, and together you join the fray. Whirling sticks and shrieks of laughter echoing in the cold hall. It's silly and small, but it's real, and for a moment, it's enough. After the battle is won, at least in the children's eyes, you slip away. Heading back toward the chapel, the walls there are cold and still. The air heavy with the scent of melted wax and old prayers. You find a seat in the back, the wooden pews worn smooth by generations of knees. You close your eyes, letting the quiet settle over you. There's no priest here now, no sermon to offer comfort or courage. Just the soft murmur of the wind through the cracks in the stone, the flicker of candles that never seem to burn down. Historians still debate whether the defenders of the castle truly believed their faith would save them, or if it was just another ritual, another way to keep despair at bay. You're not sure yourself, but here, in the hush of the chapel, you find a strange sort of peace. You rise and leave the chapel. Heading for the watchtower, the stairs are narrow and worn, spiraling up and up until your legs ache with the climb. At the top, you push open the door and step out into the wind. The view is endless. The siege lines stretch across the fields below. The enemy's campfires like fallen stars in the pre-dawn gloom. You can see the imperial thunder, still there, a hulking shadow in the half-light. You lean against the parapet, the cold stone biting into your palms. Your breath comes in white clouds, and you watch it vanish into the wind. You let your mind drift, back to stories of other sieges, other wars. Like the time Hannibal's elephants crossed the Alps, their great grey shapes terrifying the Roman legions, or how medieval armies would catapult plague-ridden corpses over city walls. A gruesome early form of biological warfare, grim tales, but they remind you that even this has an end. Below, you see a figure moving through the snow, a messenger, wrapped tight in a cloak, slipping from shadow to shadow. You squint against the wind, and for a moment, you almost believe he's a ghost. But no, he's real, and his presence sends a ripple of tension through the castle. You watch as he disappears into the main gate, and you know something has changed. You turn and start down the stairs, your heart thudding in your chest dot in the great hall. The commander stands at the head of a long table, the messenger beside him. The man's face is pale, his lips cracked from the cold. He speaks in a low voice, words that send a shiver through the room. They're sending reinforcements, he says, but not soon enough. The enemy is preparing to breach the walls. A hush falls, the air suddenly heavy. You feel it in your bones, that sense of something ending, of the walls round you growing thinner with every breath. A soldier near you mutters a prayer under his breath, his fingers tracing the sign of the cross. Another just laughs, a dry, bitter sound. Let them come, he says. We'll give them a fight to remember. You stand there, listening to the crackle of the hearth, the distant thud of the imperial thunder. You wonder how many more dawns you'll see, how many more nights you'll spend in the cold shadow of these walls. And yet, even in the face of all this, you can't help but feel a spark of stubborn hope, because if history has taught you anything, it's that even the longest night must end. The children's laughter, the flicker of a candle in the dark, the scrape of a stick against stone, these small, defiant moments are what keep you going. So you straighten your shoulders and head back out into the cold, ready to face whatever comes next. The next day begins with the howling of the wind and the slow grind of the drawbridge chains as they lower a battered cart of winter firewood. The wood is twisted and knotted, no fine oak for the castle now. You trudge across the courtyard to help, feeling the cold seep into your boots like ice water. The cart creaks under the weight of the logs, and the driver's breath fogs in the air as he shouts at you to be quick. You load log after log onto your shoulders, muscles burning with each trip. It's heavy work, but it's honest, and for a moment, the ache in your arms is better than the ache in your mind. The logs are stacked high near the kitchens. Their rough bark leaving splinters in your palms. The cooks come to haul them inside. Each load precious. You watch the smoke rise from the chimney, thick and black, and hope it's enough to keep the children warm tonight. Inside the great hall, the air is thick with the smell of damp wool and stale sweat. You find a spot near the fire, where the flames crackle and pop. Let your thoughts drift. A bird with a cracked fiddle plays a soft tune in the corner, something mournful and sweet. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. The melody, a thin thread of beauty in a world gone grey. Someone near you tells a story about crocodile poops and screen, an ancient Egyptian trick that was supposed to keep sunburn at bay. You laugh softly, shaking your head at the absurdity of it. If only it worked against cannon fire, you murmur, and the soldier beside you snorts in agreement. Outside, the siege drags on. The imperial thunder booms every hour or so, the sound like a hammer blow to your ribs. Each shot sends a ripple through the castle walls, dust drifting from the ceiling like snow. You've learned to flinch at the sound, though you try to hide it. Historians still debate whether the imperial thunder was truly the first supergun of its kind or just another piece in the endless arms race of empires. You only know that when it speaks, the ground itself seems to tremble. You slip away from the hall and climb the stairs to the ramparts. The view is the same as ever: white fields, black tents, the glow of distant fires. But today, something new catches your eye. A banner flutters in the enemy camp, bright red against the snow, a challenge, or perhaps a warning. The captain joins you, his breath steaming in the cold. They're getting ready, he says, his voice grim. You can feel it in the air. You nod, your fingers drumming against the stone. How long do you think we have? He shrugs. A week, maybe less. They'll want to break us before the thaw. You swallow hard, the weight of his words sinking in. You've seen what happens when the walls fall, heard the stories of what waits beyond surrender. The thought sends a shiver down your spine. The captain claps you on the shoulder. Keep your head down, he says, and moves on, his cloak flaring behind him like a dark banner of his own. You linger for a moment longer, your gaze fixed on the horizon. The snow has stopped for now. The world caught in a hush. You wonder, somewhere beyond those hills, spring is already stirring. It's a comforting thought, even if it feels 1,000 miles away. Back in the courtyard, you find the children again, still playing their endless games. Today, they've built a snow fort, their laughter rising in bright peals that echo off the walls. You pause to watch, your heart aching with the simple credit. One of the older girls waves you over, her cheeks flush pink. Come help us, she calls, and you can't refuse. You kneel beside them, packing snow into bricks, your fingers numb with cold. The fort grows taller, a miniature castle within the castle. And for a little while, you can almost forget the real war beyond the walls. When the game ends and the children scatter, you find yourself alone in the courtyard. The sun is a pale smear of light in the sky, and you take a moment to just breathe, to let the cold air fill your lungs. You think of all the places you've never seen, all the stories left unfinished. Inside, the kitchens are busy again. You slip in to warm your hands by the fire, listening to the cooks grumble about burnt bread and thin broth. One of them tells a story about a siege in ancient Rome, How the defenders would fire flaming pigs at the enemy to break their lines. You raise an eyebrow, and he grins. Swear it's true, he says, though you suspect he's just trying to make you laugh. The day wears on, the hours blurring together in the half-light. You help wherever you can hauling water, mending torn cloaks, sharing a crust of bread with a stranger. It's all anyone can do. As night falls, you find your way back to the chapel. The candles, they burn low, their light soft and warm. You sit for a while, letting the silence settle over you like a blanket. You think of the children's snow fort, the flicker of the fire, the faint scent of bread baking in the kitchens. You think of the stories you've heard, the laughter you've shared, the music that still lingers in your mind. And you tell yourself that, somehow, that's enough. Enough to keep going. One more day, one more night. You close your eyes and whisper a silent prayer to whatever gods might still be listening. And when you stand, you feel a little lighter, a little braver, ready to face whatever the dawn might bring. The dawn is gray and reluctant, seeping through the high windows of the chapel as you gather your cloak round you. Your boots are still damp from yesterday's snow, and your breath curls in the cold air like a ghost that won't leave you alone. You step outside, the courtyard eerily still. There's no laughter this morning, just the soft crunch of frost underfoot and the creak of a door somewhere in the distance. The cook's story about flaming pigs still lingers in your mind. A small absurdity to keep the darkness at bay. You make your way to the battlements. From up here, you can see the imperial thunder. Its dark bulk like a monster crouched at the edge of the world. The ground round it is scorched and muddy, the earth itself punished by the endless barrage. Historians still debate whether this monstrous cannon was truly the work of a single brilliant engineer, or if it was the combined product of dozens of ironmongers and mad inventors standing here, watching it glint dully in the weak sun. You don't care much who built it. You just know what it can do. A runner arrives breathless at your side, his cheeks red with cold and fear. The captain wants you in the east tower. He gasps. Now you nod, pulling your hood tighter and hurrying down the stairs. The east tower is colder than the rest of the castle, the wind howling through cracks in the stone. The captain stands by the window, peering through a battered spyglass. They're moving, he says, his voice flat. Digging trenches closer. They'll be in range by nightfall. You take the spyglass and squint through it. The enemy lines are alive with motion figures bent low, shovels flashing in the winter light. You can almost hear the scrape of metal on frozen earth, a steady, patient rhythm that promises no mercy. The captain lowers his head. We'll hold, he says, but you can hear the weight in his voice. He's trying to believe it. You're trying, too. You spend the day helping the masons reinforce the walls, hauling stone and mortar up rickety ladders. Your fingers go numb, and you have to stop every so often to pound warmth back into them. But the work is honest, and it keeps your mind from wandering too far. At one point, a mason tells you about a siege in the east, where defenders used honey-soaked cloths to treat their wounds. Honey, he says, grinning through chapped lips. Nature's bandage. Smells better than vinegar. Anyway, you chuckle, filing the tidbit away with the flaming pigs and crocodiles and scream. The world is full of strange solutions when death is at the door. By evening, the trenches are closer still, and you can see the glint of helmets in the twilight. The cooks bring out thin stew for the men on the walls, and you eat with them, your breath steaming in the cold. You share a crust of bread with the old archer who's been here since the first days of the siege. He tells you how he used to be a fletcher, how he could shape a perfect arrow from a crooked branch. His fingers are gnarled and stiff now, but his eyes still gleam when he talks about the flight of the shaft, the way it sings through the air. The night deepens, and the stars come out one by one. The moon is a pale sliver, cold and distant. You stand watch with the others, your hands resting on the rough stone of the parapet. The world below is hushed, but you can feel the tension coiling like a snake in the darkness. Somewhere in the enemy camp, a horn sounds a low, mournful note that echoes across the snow. You shiver, though you are not sure if it's the cold or the sound of that horn. It feels like a promise, or a threat. The captain joins you, his breath a white cloud. They're testing us, he says, seeing if we'll break. You nod, eyes fixed on the distant glow of fires. We won't, you say, and you try to believe it. Hours pass, the night crawling by inch by inch. You pass the time with small talk where you're from, who you're missing. You learn that the mason has a daughter who's waiting for him in a village 3 days right away. The old archer has a locket he keeps hidden under his shirt, a picture of a woman who once promised to marry him when the war was done. You share your own story, though you keep some parts to yourself. The part about how the castle feels like both a cage and a sanctuary. The part about how you're not sure which you're more afraid of surviving or not. At midnight, a flurry of snow begins to fall, soft and silent. You tilt your head back to watch it, the flakes drifting down like ashes from some distant fire. The snow is beautiful, even here, even now. You let it settle on your lashes, on the rough wool of your cloak, and for a moment, you just breathe. There's an almost sacred quiet in that moment, a pause in the endless march of fear. You think about how historians still argue over whether snow made any real difference in ancient battles, whether it slowed the charge, dulled the clash of steel, or just reminded men that the world was bigger than their wars. You decide it doesn't matter. Right now, the snow is enough, a softening of the world, a hush that even the imperial thunder can't touch. When the watch ends, you climb down from the wall, your legs stiff with cold. You find the quiet corner in the chapel, where the last candles flicker low. You sit, your back against the stone, and close your eyes. You dream of honey and snow, of laughter that echoes like a promise. You dream of walls that hold, and of small mercies that light the dark. And when you wake, the world is still there. Waiting. The morning comes with a brittle blue sky, the kind that almost tricks you into believing the world is bright and clean. But you know better. You wrap your cloak tighter, the rough wool scratchy against your neck, and make your way back up the stairs to the ramparts. The enemy trenches are even closer now, their jagged lines etched into the snow like scars. You watch them for a long moment, breath pluming in the cold air, before turning back to the work at hand. There's always work, always something to mend, to carry, to shore up. You spend the day with the masons again, patching cracks in the walls where the last barrage had left its mark. The mortar stings your fingers, the stone cold and unyielding. You move with the rhythm of it, the scrape of trowel and stone, the quiet murmur of the men around you. It's a kind of prayer. You think an offering to whatever gods might still be listening. Someone tells a story about how, centuries ago, defenders at Constantinople would fire Greek fire from the walls, an inferno that clung to flesh and could not be quenched. They say it was like the breath of dragons. The man says, eyes wide. You try to imagine it. The night lit up with roaring flame, but the chill in your bones won't let you. The debate still rages among scholars, whether Greek fire was truly as devastating as the chronicles claimed, or just another of history's half-truths. But here, with your own walls crumbling under the imperial thunder, you'd trade 100 legends for one barrel of the stuff. By afternoon, the snow begins again fine, powdery flakes that swirl around you as you work. You pause to watch them drift down, your breath misting the air. It's so quiet for a moment, so peaceful. But then the ground shakes again, another blast from the imperial thunder. So close now you feel it in your bones. The wall shudders, dust sifting down from the ramparts. You swallow hard, shoulders tensing. But there's no time to flinch, just another stone to lift, another crack to seal. You're hauling buckets of sand up the ladder when you hear the children's laughter again. Somehow, in the midst of all this, they're playing in the snow building Crooked Snowman, their mittened hands red with cold. You smile despite yourself, feeling the warmth of it flicker in your chest. The girl with tangled braids calls out to you, holding up a crooked snowball. You want to join? She asks, grinning. You shake your head, but you toss her a wink. Maybe later, you say, and she nods solemnly, as if that promise means everything inside. The kitchens are alive with the hiss and sputter of boiling pots. The cooks are making barley porridge tonight, stirring the cauldrons with long wooden spoons. You help carry water from the well, your shoulders aching with each trip. The heat of the kitchens is a balm after the raw cold outside. One of the cooks, a thin man with a permanent scowl, tells you about an ancient siege in India, how elephants were used to break down the gates of great fortresses. Imagine that. He says, wiping his brow, a beast taller than this tower, smashing through the walls like they're nothing. You laugh, picturing it. Though you know no elephant could save you now, you eat your bowl of porridge by the fire, the warmth of it seeping into your bones. It's thin and salty, but you're grateful for it. Every bite feels like defiance, a small act of survival in a world determined to grind you down. As night falls, the captain calls the garrison together in the great hall. His voice is low, steady. They're close. He says, they'll come at dawn, or not long after. We'll hold. That's all there is to it. You stand shoulder to shoulder with the others, the weight of his words sinking in. You can see the strain in their faces, the way their eyes flick to the high windows and the snow beyond. But there's a kind of resolve there, to a stubborn flame that won't go out later. You slip away to the chapel. The candles are almost gone, pools of wax round blackened wicks. You light one anyway, the small flame flickering in the darkness. You think of all the things you can't say, all the prayers you can't quite put into words. You remember the story of the elephants, the dragon's breath of Greek fire, the children's snow fort. You remember the cook's laugh, the mason's steady hands, the old archer's gentle smile, and you hold those memories close, like embers against the cold. You climbed to the highest tower one last time, the snow crunching under your boots. From here, you can see everything: the enemy trenches, the siege engines, the faint glow of fires in the darkness. You stand there for a long time, breathing slow and deep, the cold biting at your skin. Tomorrow, you whisper to the night, we'll see. The wind answers with a sigh, carrying the snow in swirling eddies round you. You close your eyes and let it wash over you, the world hushed and waiting. When you go back down, the castle feels smaller somehow, more intimate. You pass the kitchens again, the smell of barley lingering in the air. You hear the children's laughter echo in the halls, a bright defiance that makes your heart ache. You find a quiet corner to sleep, your cloak wrapped tight around you. You close your eyes and drift, the memory of snowflakes and firelight dancing in the darkness dot outside. The enemy waits. But for now, you let yourself rest. The first light of dawn is a pale smudge on the horizon, the snow glimmering like glass in the cold. You wake to the faint rattle of armor, the quiet shuffle of boots on stone. The castle is alive with a nervous energy, every breath measured and taut. You slip on your cloak, the wool heavy on your shoulders, and make your way to the ramparts. The captain is already there, his gloved hands clasped behind his back. He doesn't say anything, just nods when you join him below. The enemy lines are a dark smudge in the white landscape, their siege engines looming like skeletons of wood and iron. The first volley comes with the sunrise alow, rumbling boom that shakes the stones beneath your feet. The imperial thunder speaks, and the world listens. Chunks of masonry tumble from the tower beside you. dust rising in choking clouds. You cough, eyes stinging, but you keep your place. There's nowhere else to be. Historians still debate whether the Imperial Thunder's barrel was cast in one piece or assembled from massive iron rings. They argue about metallurgy and forging techniques, lost to time and conquest. But none of that matters here. Not when you can feel the tremor of each shot in your bones. The Captain Box orders. His voice calm but edged with steel. Archers line the walls, their bows creaking in the cold. You help carry barrels of arrows up the stairs, your shoulders burning with each load. The air is thick with the scent of oil and wet rope, the twang of bowstrings blending with the low murmur of prayers. You pause to watch as a group of archers release a volley arrows rising in a graceful arc, disappearing into the white sky. You imagine them falling like rain on the enemy below, a brief, deadly storm. A boy no older than 16 stands beside you, his face pale beneath the shadow of his helmet. He fumbles with his quiver, his hands shaking. "I've never seen a battle," he whispers. You glance at him, offering a small smile. "No one really has," you say. "Not until they're in it." The boy nods, swallowing hard. You want to tell him something comforting, something that would make the fear in his eyes go away. But the truth is, there's nothing to say. So you rest a hand on his shoulder and move on as the morning wears on. The air grows thick with smoke and the acrid tang of burning pitch. You duck as another blast shakes the tower, stones clattering down the stairs. Somewhere, a woman's voice rises in Sonithan, wavering note that cuts through the chaos like a blade of light. You can't see her, but you let the sound wash over you, a brief moment of grace. You spend the afternoon carrying water to the wounded. The bucket's heavy and cold. The infirmary is crowded with men wrapped in bloodied bandages, their faces drawn and pale. You pause to watch the old healer at work, her hands quick and sure as she packs a wound with moss and honey. She catches your eye and winks. "Nature's bandage," she says, and you can't help but laugh, even now, outside. The children have retreated to the kitchens, their laughter replaced by the clatter of pots and pans. You find them huddled in a corner, eyes wide and silent. One of them, a girl with a missing tooth, clutches a small wooden toy knight with a painted shield. She holds it tight, her fingers white against the worn wood. "Will the walls hold?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. You kneel beside her, your breath misting in the cold. "They'll hold," you say, "because you have too." She nods, not quite believing you, but holding onto your words all the same. The sun dips low in the sky, a pale disk behind drifting snow. You climb back to the walls, your boots slipping on ice-slick stones. The enemy is close enough now that you can see the glint of armor, the bright flash of steel. A cry goes up from the enemy lines, a harsh, ragged roar that rolls across the snow. The first charge comes then, a wave of bodies and iron, crashing against the battered gate. The walls shudder beneath you, the air filled with the clash of metal on stone. You draw your blade, an old thing, notched and worn, but yours. You brace yourself as the first ladders scrape against the parapets, the enemy pouring over them like a flood. The boy from earlier is beside you, his face set in a grim mask. You nod to him once, and then the fight is on. Steel rings in the cold air, each blow a spark of fury and fear. You parry, slash, push back against the press of bodies. You are not a hero, just another pair of hands, another heartbeat in the din. You find a strange rhythm in the chaos, your mind narrowing to the weight of your blade, the crunch of boots in snow dot at some point. The boy falls, a flash of red on the white stones. You drag him back, pressing a hand to the wound in his side. "Hold on," you say, though you can see in his eyes that he won't. He smiles a small, tired thing, and then he's gone. You swallow the ache in your chest and push forward. There's no time to mourn. No time to breathe. Just one more swing. One more push against the tide. The sun sets in a blaze of orange and gold. The sky streaked with fire. You fight in the dying light. The snow round you trampled and red. When the horns finally sound for retreat, you stagger back against the wall, your chest heaving. You look round, the boy's gone. The ladder's broken. The air thick with smoke and suds. The walls still stand. For now, you close your eyes. The roar of battle fading to a low hum in your ears. You're tired, bone deep. Soul deep tired. But you're alive. And so is the castle. For tonight. That's enough. The night is cold and sharp. Each breath a cloud of frost that clings to your lips. You stand watch on the ramparts. The snow beneath your boots packed hard and slick. The enemy lines are dark now, lit only by the flicker of campfires and the occasional spark from the imperial thunder. Your shoulders ache. Your hands numb in your gloves. You shift your weight, trying to keep the blood moving. It's a quiet hour. The space between the last charge and whatever dawn might bring. A moment to gather yourself, to remember who you are. Below, the castle sleeps fitfully. You can see the faint glow of the kitchens, the flicker of a single lantern in the infirmary. Somewhere, someone laughs so bright, quick sound that echoes off the stone like a promise. You let it fill you for a moment, a small flame against the dark. You think of the old chronicles, the stories of castles that held out for years against sieges. You remember reading about Bellvorn Castle in Wales, which held out for 7 long years during the Wars of the Roses. Historians still debate how they managed it. Some say the sea brought supplies. Others that the defenders were simply too stubborn to die. You wonder if your castle will earn a place in those dusty tomes. If someone centuries from now will read about your stand here. You smile, a soft, tired smile. Let them wonder. A flurry of snow drifts down from the parapet, catching in your eyelashes. You brush it away and glance out at the dark expanse beyond the walls. The enemy is moving small shapes in the darkness, shifting and settling like wolves in the snow. You watch them, your hand resting on the hilt of your blade. Let them come. You duck into the tower to warm your hands by the brazier. The heat is a bomb, seeping into your skin, making you shiver as the cold leaves you for a moment. The pot of thin broth simmers on the coals, and you take a sip salty, with a faint taste of turnip and bone. It's enough to settle your stomach, to remind you that you're still alive. A grizzled veteran sits across from you, his hair a wild tangle of grey. He tells you about the siege of Antioch, when the defenders discovered a holy lance buried beneath the cathedral floor. They said it turned the tide, he says, his eyes bright in the firelight. But maybe it was just the hope it gave them. You nod, thinking of the children's laughter in the snow, the girl with her toy knight. Hope's a strange thing, fragile, but fierce outside. The wind picks up, howling through the cracks in the stone. You pull your cloak tight around you and return to the parapet. The stars are out now, a scatter of light across the black sky. You let your gaze drift up, tracing the constellations with numb fingers. You remember something you read once, how the ancient Egyptians used crocodile poop as sunscreen. You can't help but grin at the absurdity of it. A small, bright spark of humor in the darkness. You whisper the fact to the stars, as if they might find it amusing. 2. The hours pass slow and heavy, the weight of the night pressing down on your shoulders. You pace the walls, your boots crunching in the snow, your mind drifting. You think of the boy who fell, his smile at the end. You think of the captain, his voice steady even when the walls shook. You think of the children, and the girl's question, will the walls hold? You wonder, to dotted dawn. The cold is so sharp it feels like a blade against your skin. The first light spills over the snow, turning the world to silver and gold. You watch as the enemy stirs, the dark shapes rising from their trenches, moving with the quiet purpose of men who know the day's work is death. The horns sound low and mournful, echoing off the stone. You draw a deep breath, the cold burning in your lungs. You tighten your grip on your blade, your heart beating slow and heavy. The first assault is a test, small bands probing the walls. Looking for weakness, you meet them with arrows and rocks. The defenders working in grim silence. You find yourself in the thick of it. Your breath coming hard and fast. Your arms trembling with each blow. A ladder comes up near you, the enemy pouring over the top like a wave. You brace yourself, driving them back with the weight of your body, the edge of your blade. You're not a knight, not a hero, just another soul trying to live. Somewhere behind you, a horn sounds again, a long, rising note that sets your teeth on edge. The enemy pulls back, and for a moment there is only the cold, the snow, the quiet gasp of breath. You lean against the wall, your blade dripping red, your chest heaving. You glance down at the boy's blood on the stones, dark and already freezing in the cold. You whisper a soft prayer, though you're not sure to whom. Maybe it's enough that you said it at all. You spend the rest of the day patching the walls, carrying buckets of water to douse the smoldering fires where the pitch caught. The castle smells of smoke and blood and sweat, a sharp, living scent that makes your throat ache. As night falls again, the captain calls you and the others together. They'll try again tomorrow, he says, his voice quiet but certain. But the walls still stand, and so do we. You nod, feeling the truth of it settle into your bones. The walls still stand, and so do you for tonight. That's enough. The morning brings no mercy, only the promise of another day beneath the siege. You rise with the sun, your body stiff and your dreams still tangled in the darkness. The castle feels heavy round you, the weight of stone and history pressing on your shoulders. You pull your cloak tight and head to the kitchens first. The cook hands you a hunk of bread, still warm from the oven. She smiles faintly, the lines of worry etched round her eyes. Eat, she says. You'll need your strength. The bread is coarse, but it fills the emptiness in your stomach. Outside, the snow has drifted against the walls, a blanket of white that softens the harsh lines of the battlements. You trot along the ramparts, the cold biting at your fingers. The enemy's camp is a dark smudge in the distance, the faint glow of fires flickering in the dawn. You remember the tales of the siege of Candia in Crete, how it lasted for more than 20 years, longer than most men's lives. Historians still debate whether it was stubborn pride or sheer desperation that kept them fighting so long. You wonder which it will be for you. The captain joins you, his face gaunt beneath his battered helm. He says nothing, just stands beside you, his breath a cloud in the cold air. It's a kind of comfort, his silent presence, a promise that you're not alone. You're sent to the walls again, this time to patch the mortar cracked by the imperial thunder's relentless hammering. The air smells of wet stone and fresh blood, a sharp scent that lingers in your nose. You work in silence, the rhythmic scrape of trowel on stone, a lullaby of sorts. A girl brings you water in a chipped clay mug, her hands trembling as she passes it to you. For luck, she says, and you take a sip. The cold water shock that clears the fog from your mind. The imperial thunder speaks again, a low, rolling boom that rattles your bones. You flinch, your hand tightening on the mug. They'll try again soon, the girl says, her voice a soft tremor. You nod, setting the mug down with care. Then we'll be ready. You say, you have to believe it, as you work. You notice the old healer moving among the wounded, her hands quick and sure. She hums a tune you don't recognize, her voice a soft counterpoint to the groans and the clatter of tools. She catches your eye and winks, the same spark of humor as always. The castle may break, but we'll patch it together, she says, stone and bone alike. You laugh, a short, sharp sound that echoes off the stone. Humor is a fragile thing here, but it's a light in the darkness, and you cling to it like a lifeline by noon. The enemy is on the move again. The horns sound, a ragged cry that sends a shiver down your spine. You take your place on the walls, your blade ready, your breath steady. The charge comes in a rush of bodies and steel, a tide that crashes against the ancient stones. You meet it with your comrades, the clash of blades and the cries of the wounded filling the air. You fight like you've always fought, desperate, determined, each breath a prayer. A man with a scar across his cheek swings at you, his blade flashing in the cold light you parry. Your arms shaking with the effort. He grins, his snarl more than a smile, and lunges again. You dodge, your feet slipping on the icy stones, drive your shoulder into him, sending him tumbling back into the fray. You don't have time to think, only to move, to react. The world knows to the weight of your sword, the rhythm of your breath, the burn of your muscles. At some point, you hear laughter soft, almost delirious. You glance to your right and see a young woman, her hair matted with blood, grinning as she swings a broken spear. They thought we'd break, she says, her voice bright with defiance. Let them think it again. You laugh with her, the sound roar in your throat. Let them, you say, and together you push back against the tide. The hours blur into one long heartbeat, the sun crawling across the sky in a haze of grey. When the horns sound for retreat, you stagger back from the walls, your body aching, your breath ragged. The captain meets you at the gate, his hand heavy on your shoulder. You did well, he says, his voice low and rough. You nod, too tired for words. And he squeezes your shoulder once before moving on. You find a quiet corner to rest, your back against the cold stone. You close your eyes and let the darkness take you for a moment. The sounds of the castle muffled and distant. You wake to the taste of blood in your mouth and the soft touch of snow on your face. The child stands over you, her eyes wide. A scrap of cloth in her hands for the cuts, she says, and you smile, letting her press it to your cheek. Night falls again, the castle wrapped in shadow and frost. You take your place on the walls, your breath slow and steady. The enemy is quiet now, their fires flickering in the distance. You wonder how long this can last, how long you can last. But for tonight, the walls still stand, and so do you, and for tonight. That's enough. You're up before the dawn bell tolls. The castle still a maze of sleeping shadows and quiet fears. Your breath hangs in the cold air, small, living ghost in the darkness. You rub your hands together, the skin cracked and rough from days of snow and stone, and head to the ramparts once more. The girl with the toy knight is there again, bundled in furs too big for a small frame. She watches you with solemn eyes, her toy clutched to her chest like a talisman. Will you fight again today? She asks, her voice no louder than the crunch of snow underfoot. Yes, you say, we all will. She nods, as if she's always known the answer dock below. The enemy is stirring. You can see them through the gaps in the stone shadows moving in the half-light. The distant shapes of siege towers creeping forward like slow, monstrous insects. You swallow the lump in your throat and turn to the work at hand. The morning passes in a haze of preparation, boiling pitch, stacking rocks, sharpening blades that are already nicked and dulled from days of use. The castle is a living thing now. Each breath of wind through the arrow slits like the sigh of a sleeping giant. You can almost believe the walls themselves are awake, whispering to you in the clatter of boots and the hiss of steam dot by midday. The imperial thunder speaks again. The first blast echoes through the stones, a deep, bone-shaking note that rattles your teeth. You flinch, the sound crawling down your spine like a shiver. Another blast, and another the rhythm of war, steady and merciless. You remember reading about the siege of Constantinople in 1453. How the great cannon, basilica, they called it, brought down the walls that had stood for centuries. Historians still debate whether it was the might of the Ottomans or the slow rot of an empire that doomed the city in the end. You wonder what they'll say about you centuries from now. The enemy charges, their banners snapping in the cold wind. Bright splashes of color against the gray sky. You brace yourself, your fingers tight round the haft of your spear. The first wave hits like a thundercloud. Bodies slamming against the walls, ladders scraping against stone. You fight in silence, your world narrowed to the weight of your weapon, the rhythm of breath and strike. There's no time to think, only to act, to thrust and parry, to push them back inch by inch. A boy no older than the girl with the toy knight comes at you, his eyes wild, a dagger in his hand. You block his strike and shove him back, your heart lurching in your chest. He stumbles, slips in the snow, and is swallowed by the melee. You don't see him again. Beside you, the old healer moves through the chaos, her hands deft and sure. She binds wounds as arrows fly, her voice a soft murmur that cuts through the noise. Hold still, she says to a man with a gash in his thigh. You live to see the dawn. You almost believe her. The hours stretch and blur. The sky overhead a sullen gray that bleeds into dusk. You lose track of how many times you've driven them back. How many times the imperial thunder has spoken. Each blast is another crack in the walls, another chip in your resolve, dot in a lull between assaults. You hear laughter bright, desperate sound that slices through the quiet. You glance over and see a young man, his face streaked with soot, balancing a helm on his head like a jester's cap. If we're going to die, he says, we might as well die laughing. You can't help but smile. A small, right twist of your lips. He's right. You think, if nothing else, you'll die as yourself, dot, as night falls. The enemy pulls back. There fires the red smear on the horizon. The castle settles into an uneasy quiet. The air sharp with the scent of smoke and sweat. You take a moment to breathe, to feel the cold sink into your bones. You find a quiet corner in the courtyard and sink down, your back against the cold stone. The girl with the toy knight finds you there, her eyes wide and solemn. Did we win? She asks, for now. You say. She nods and tucks her toy under her cloak. Good, she says, and that's enough. You close your eyes for a moment, the weight of the day pressing down on you like the snow on the roofs. You dream of warm summers and quiet fields, of laughter that isn't tinged with fear. When you wake, the stars are out, sharp points of light in the black sky. A soft wind stirs the snow, and for a moment the world feels gentle again. The siege a distant memory, but you know better. You know it will come again with the dawn. You stand, your body aching, and head back to the walls. The girl's question echoes in your mind, did we win? You don't know. Maybe winning isn't the point anymore. Maybe it's just about holding on. The night stretches out before you. A long, cold vigil. You wrap your cloak tighter and watch the enemy fires flicker in the dark. For tonight, the walls still stand, and so do you. You rise with the frost still clinging to the stones. Your breath a soft cloud in the pre-dawn chill. The castle around you is a hushed cathedral of cold. The stones slick under your boots as you make your way to the walls. The girl with the toy knight meets you there, her small hands buried deep in her sleeves. They're coming, she says, her voice a breath of wind in the darkness. You nod, your fingers tracing the rough edge of the battlement. We'll be ready. You tell her, though your voice sounds hollow even to your own ears. Below, the enemy stirs again. You see the glint of steel, the faint shapes of siege towers creeping forward like monstrous beetles. You remember reading about the siege of Orleans in 1429, how Joan of Arc, barely more than a girl herself, turned the tide of a war that had ground on for decades. Historians still debate whether it was faith, luck, or sheer stubbornness that won that day. You suspect it was all three. The horns sound. a ragged cry that echoes through the stone. You tighten your grip on your spear. Though it worn smooth by your hands, you think of the cook's quiet smile, of the healer's soft songs, of the girl's wide eyes. They're the reasons you keep standing. The first arrows whistle through the dawn light, bright flushes of death in the cold air. You duck behind the battlements, your heart pounding in your chest. A man beside you laughs, a short, breathless bark that's more relief than joy. They can't kill us all, he says, and you want to believe him. The charge comes like a wave, bodies slamming against the walls, ladders scraping against the ancient stone. You thrust and parry, each movement a prayer, each breath a promise. The world knows to the weight of your weapon and the warmth of your breath in the cold air. A man with a scarred face and a battered shield lunges at you, his eyes wild with desperation. You parry his first blow and drive your shoulder into him, sending him sprawling into the snow. He scrambles to his feet, his mouth twisted in a snarl, and comes at you again. You meet him blow for blow, your arms shaking with the effort. Round you, the battle is a blur of noise and motion, the clang of steel on steel, the hiss of arrows, the cries of the wounded. You fight like you've always fought, with everything you have and nothing you don't. Single quotist dot at some point. You hear singing a woman's voice, soft and steady, cutting through the chaos like a blade. You glance over and see the healer, her hands red with blood, her voice a lullaby in the madness. Hush, my love, hush, she sings, binding a gash in the man's side. We'll see the dawn. Her voice is a thread of hope in the dark. The hours blur, the sun crawling across the sky in a haze of grey. You lose track of how many times the enemy charges, how many times you've driven them back. Your arms are lead, your breath ragged, but still you stand in a lull. You find a moment to lean against the wall, your spear tip resting in the snow. The girl with the toy knight appears at your side, her eyes wide and solemn. Will it end today? She asks. You shake your head. Not today. You say. She nods, as if she's always known. The sun dips toward the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and reds. The enemy pulls back again, their fires flickering in the distance. You can feel the weight of the day in your bones, the ache of every breath. You find a corner in the courtyard to rest, your back against the cold stone. The healer passes by, her hands wrapped in stained bandages. She stops and presses a warm hand to your shoulder. You're still here, she says. That's what matters. You nod, too tired for words, and she moves on. Night falls with a quiet sigh, the castle settling into the uneasy peace of the hours between battles. You take your place on the walls, your eyes scanning the darkness. The girl with the toy knight curls up beside a brazier, her small body a pale shape in the firelight. You watch the stars prick the sky, tiny points of light in the endless dark. You wonder how many of them have seen battles like this. How many have watched cities burn and walls fall? You wonder if they remember. A man beside you hums a tune, a low, wordless melody that drifts through the cold air. You join him. Your voice a soft echo of his for a moment. The castle feels almost warm. Below, the enemy fires smolder like embers, a promise of violence yet to come. But for tonight, the walls still stand. And so do you. You close your eyes for a moment, your breath slow and even. The night is long, and the dawn is far away, but you will be here when it comes. You always have been. The dawn breaks with a pale light, the sky a wash of soft pinks and muted blues. You stand at the battlements, the cold air biting at your cheeks, your breath misting in front of you like a ghost. The girl with the toy knight is nowhere to be seen, but you know she's out there somewhere, waiting like the rest of you. The castle is hushed in the early light, the walls slick with frost. You can almost pretend it's a morning like any other quiet beginning to a quiet day. But the smell of smoke and blood lingers in the air, a reminder that the world has been changed forever. The captain joins you, his face gaunt and hollow-eyed. They're moving again, he says, his voice a low rumble. You follow his gaze to the horizon, where the enemy's camp stirs like an anthill. Siege towers creak forward, their dark shapes looming against the sky. You swallow, your throat dry. We're ready, you say, though you're not sure you believe it. He claps you on the shoulder, his grip firm. We have to be, he says, and that's all there is to it. You remember reading about the siege of Bellvorn Castle in Wales, how it lasted for 7 long years in the 15th century. Historians still debate whether the defenders' songs or their steel kept them standing. You'd like to think it was both. The first arrows come as a whisper in the cold air, a gentle hissing that becomes a deadly rain. You duck behind the battlements, your heart drum in your chest. You think of the girl with the toy knight, of the cook's tired smile, of the healer's soft songs. They are the reasons you stand. The enemy charges, ladders scraping against the walls, the clash of steel and stone filling the air. You fight because there's no other choice. Each breath a prayer, each strike a promise. The world knows to the weight of your spear and the rhythm of your heart. A boy with a broken helm lunges at you, his face a mask of fear and fury. You parry his strike and shove him back, the cold biting at your fingers through your gloves, his lips, his feet skidding on the icy stones, and you see the moment he realizes he won't make it. You look away as he falls. Beside you, the old healer moves through the chaos, her hands red with blood, her voice a steady hum. Hold still. She murmurs to a man with a gash in his shoulder. You'll live to see the dawn. You believe her because you have too. The hours stretch out like an endless road. Each moment a battle, each breath a victory. You lose track of how many times the enemy comes, how many times you drive them back. Your arms ache, your shoulders burn, but still you stand darting low. You find a moment to rest. Your back against the cold stone. The girl with the toy knight appears beside you, her small face pale. Will it ever end? She asks. You shake your head. I don't know. You say. She nods, as if she's always known. The sun crawls across the sky, a pale coin in the grey light. You fight on, your body moving on instinct, your mind a blur of noise and motion. Round you, the castle holds its breath as the sun begins to set. The enemy pulls back once more. You watch them retreat. Their sheep's blood in the snow and smoke. The quiet that follows is almost worse than the battle, a heavy silence that presses down on your shoulders. You find the cook in the courtyard, stirring a pot over a small fire. She hands you a bowl, her smile tired but warm. Eat, she says. You'll need your strength. The stew is thin but hot, and you drink it down in grateful gulps. Night falls with a soft sigh. The world wrapped in darkness and cold. You take your place on the walls, your eyes fixed on the horizon. The girl with the toy knight curls up by the brazier, her toy clutched to her chest. You wonder how much longer you can hold. You wonder if it matters. The castle is your home now, your prison and your salvation. The walls still stand, and so do you. You close your eyes for a moment, your breath slow and steady. The night is long, and the dawn is far away. But you will be here when it comes. You always have been. The cold is a living thing tonight, is sharp, biting presence that seeps through the stones and into your bones. You stand at your post, the breath of the night wind in your face, and you feel every ache, every bruise from the long days of siege. But still you stand, because that is what you do. The girl with the toy knight sleeps fitfully by the brazier, her small form curled round her wooden guardian. You watch her for a moment, the soft rise and fall of her breath, and you remember what it feels like to be that small, to believe in the magic of wooden knights and stone castles. The enemy's fires flicker in the darkness, small islands of light in the vast, cold sea of night. You can almost see the shapes of men moving in the glow, shadows that flicker and fade like memories. You wonder if they're afraid, if they feel the same cold, the same weight of waiting. The castle is quiet tonight, the walls holding their breath in the darkness. You can hear the creak of the old wooden gates, the soft rustle of straw in the stables. You can almost forget, for a moment, that death waits just beyond the walls. You remember reading about the siege of Malta in 1565. When the Knights of Este, John held out against overwhelming odds. Historians still debate whether it was the strength of their walls or the iron in their hearts that saved them. You suspect it was both. A soft footstep draws your attention. The healer is there, her hands wrapped in linen, her face pale in the moonlight. "How are you?" she asks, her voice low. "Still here." You say. She smiles, a small, tired smile. "That's all we can ask for." She sits beside you, her hands resting in her lap. "I had a patient today," she says softly. A boy no older than that girl. He wouldn't let go of a rag doll. Even when the arrow was pulled out, he just kept holding on. She pauses, her gaze distant. "We all have our talismans," you nod, your fingers tracing the warm wood of your spear. You think of the girl with the toy knight, of the cook's tired jokes, of the captain's quiet resolve. These are your talismans, the things that keep you standing when everything else seems to fall away. The night stretches on, the stars wheeling slowly overhead. The cold seeps deeper, but you do not move. The enemy is out there, somewhere in the dark, but you cannot see them. You can only wait. A soft laugh breaks the silence, and you glance over to see a young soldier balancing a battered helm on his head like a crown. "King of the cold," he says, his breath a white plume in the air. You chuckle despite yourself. "Long may he reign," you reply, and the two of you share a small, fleeting smile. The quiet returns, the world reduced to the slow drift of snow and the steady beat of your heart. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the cold wash over you. It is a reminder that you are still alive, that you still have something worth standing for. The girl with the toy knight stirs in her sleep, her small hand reaching out for her woodland guardian. You watch her for a moment, the soft lines of her face in the firelight. She is a promise, a quiet reminder of why you stand. The healer sighs, her breath a soft cloud in the cold air. "We'll see the dawn," she says, her voice a whisper. "We always do, you nod, though you're not sure you believe it. The dawn is far away, and the night is long, but you stand, because that is what you do. You stand, and you wait. The night seems endless, an expanse of cold and shadow that stretches on without mercy. You feel every heart beat like a drumbeat, every breath a small victory against the dark. The walls loom round you, ancient and unyielding, and you cling to them like a sailor to a sinking ship. The girl with the toy knight sleeps fitfully, her small body cold round her wooden guardian. You watch her for a moment, the way her brow furrows in her dreams. You wonder what she dreams of: green fields and warm sun, or dark halls filled with monsters. Maybe both. The enemy's fires burn in the distance, bright points of light in the cold night. You can hear them, sometimes murmurs of voices, the rattle of armor, the quiet scrape of metal on stone. It is a reminder that they are out there, waiting. The healer passes by, her hands stained with old blood and fresh herbs. She presses a warm hand to your arm. "Stay awake," she says, her voice low. "We can't afford to sleep." You nod, though your eyelids feel like lead. "I know," you say. She moves on, her soft songs trailing in the darkness. You remember reading about the siege of Tyre by Alexander the Great in 330 to BC. How the city was cut off from the world by a massive causeway built by the conqueror. Historians still debate whether it was the sheer audacity of Alexander or the stubbornness of the Tyrians that made the difference. You suspect it was both. A sudden sound, a soft scuff of leather on stone snaps you to attention. You grip your spear tighter, your eyes scanning the darkness. A shadow moves beyond the walls. Just a flicker of motion in the firelight. You strain to see, every muscle in your body coiled tight. It's a trick of the light, just a man stumbling under a heavy pack. No enemy, no danger. But your breath doesn't slow. Your heart doesn't calm. The night is a predator, and you are its prey. A young boy brings you a bowl of thin broth, his hands shaking with the cold. Eat, he says, his voice small. You thank him. Your fingers numb on the wooden bowl. The broth is hot and thin, but it fills your belly and chases away the worst of the chill. The hours creep by, the darkness pressing in round you. The girl stirs, her toy knife clutched tight in her small hand. Is it morning yet? She asks, her voice no louder than a breath. Not yet, you say, but soon. She nods and curls back into her blanket, her faith in you unwavering. You envy her that faith. You catch sight of the cook in the courtyard, her breath fogging the cold air as she tends a small fire. She sees you and raises a hand, her tired smile a small light in the darkness. You raise your hand in return, the simple gesture a thread that binds you to this place, to these people. A soft snow begins to fall, the flakes drifting down in lazy spirals. They catch in your hair, your lashes, turning the night into a quiet dream. For a moment, the world seems almost gentle, the cold a soft embrace instead of a blade. The captain joins you on the wall, his face drawn and pale in the moonlight. We're holding, he says, his voice rough. For now, you nod, though you both know what he really means. We're holding, but for how long? A soldier nearby hums a song under his breath, a soft tune that drifts through the cold air. You join him, your voice low and steady, and for a moment the two of you are a small island of warmth in the endless night. The girl with the toy knife wakes again, her eyes wide and solemn. Will it be over soon? She asks. You look at her and say the only thing you can. Soon, you whisper. She nods, her small hand tightening round her toy. The snow falls thicker, muffling the sounds of the world. The enemy fires burn low, flickering in the darkness. You stand at your post, your breath slow and even, your spear a quiet promise in your hand. The night is long, but you are still here. You always have been. The grey light of dawn creeps over the world, pale and cold as a ghost's breath. You watch it from your post, the snow still drifting down in soft spirals. It's beautiful, in a way a fragile beauty that has no place in this hard world of siege and steel. But you cling to it. Let it fill a small part of your heart. The girl with the toy knight is awake now, her small face turned to the sky. It's pretty, she says softly, and you nod. It is, for a moment. The two of you are just that to people watching the snow. The cook brings you a mug of something hot, the steam curling in the cold air. Drink up, she says, her voice hoarse. It's not much, but it's warm. You thank her. The mug heavy and solid in your numb hands. You take a sip, the warmth blooming in your chest like a small fire. The healer joins you, her hair tucked under a scarf against the cold. The wounded are holding, she says, her breath a white cloud. For now, she glances at the girl, her eyes soft. She's stronger than she looks. You smile, though it feels fragile. We all are. You say, you remember reading about the siege of Candia, a long, grinding battle in the 17th century that lasted more than 20 years. Historians still debate whether it was the cunning of the defenders or the sheer stubbornness of the Venetians that dragged it out. You think it was both, though 20 years seems like a lifetime here. The enemy stirs beyond the walls, dark shapes moving in the half-light. The air is sharp with the scent of wood smoke and iron, the snow crunching under their boots. You grip your spear tighter, your shoulders tensing, The captain paces behind you, his brow furrowed. They'll try again, he says, as if he needs to remind you. They always do, you nod. The words a quiet drumbeat in your mind. They always do. The first arrows come as a soft hiss, a whisper in the morning air. You duck behind the parapet, the world shrinking to the cold stone under your hands and the bright edge of fear in your gut. The girl with the toy knight huddles by the brazier, her eyes wide. The ladders come next, scraping against the walls like the claws of some great beast. The enemy roars, a sound that fills the cold morning like thunder. You fight because there's nothing else to do, because the walls still stand. And so do you. A man with a rusted axe swings at you, his breath ragged. You parry, the shock of it rattling your arms, and shove him back. His eyes are wild, his mouth is not. You see the fear there, the desperate edge of it, and it mirrors your own. Beside you, the captain moves like a shadow, his sword flashing in the grey light. Hold the line, he shouts, his voice steady and sure. You hold, your feet planted in the snow, your body a shield for the girl with the toy knight and the healer's quiet hope. The world is a blur of motion shouts, steel on stone. The sharp bite of the cold, you lose yourself in it. Your body moving on instinct, your mind a narrow thread of focus. There is no past, no future. Only this, the cold stone under your boots, the weight of the spear in your hand. The fight drags on, every heartbeat a battle, every breath a victory. The snow turns red in places, the cold seeping into every cut and bruise. But you don't stop, you can't. When the enemy finally pulls back, the quiet is a relief and a burden. You lean against the wall, your chest heaving, the girl with the toy knight pressed close to your side. You're safe. You tell her, though you are not sure if you're trying to convince her or yourself. The healer moves through the wounded, her hands gentle, her voice soft. You did well, she tells you as she binds a cut on your arm. We all did. The cook appears with another mug of something hot, her smile tired but bright. You look like hell, she says, and you manage a weak laugh. I feel it. You replied of the girl with the toy knight tugs at your sleeve. Will it end soon? She asks, her voice a whisper. You look at her, at the small knight she clutches so tight, and you nod. It will. You say, your voice a promise. It has two. The captain stands at the wall, his gaze fixed on the enemy's camp. They'll be back, he says quietly, but so will we. You stand a little straighter, your fingers tightening round your spear. The cold is still there, the fear still whispering at the edges of your mind. But the walls still stand, and so do you, for now. That's enough. The morning after the attack is a quiet one, the world hushed and still. You walk the ramparts, the cold air biting at your skin, the snow crunching softly under your boots. The sun is a pale disk in the sky, weak and distant, but it is there, and that is something. The girl with the toy knight follows you, her small feet leaving delicate prints in the snow. She hums a tune under her breath, a sweet, soft melody that seems too gentle for this place. You smile at her. The sound of balm for the raw places inside you. The cook is in the courtyard, stirring a pot of thin gruel over a crackling fire. She waves you over, her breath fogging in the cold. Eat, she says, handing you a wooden bowl. You'll need your strength. You thank her, the steam from the gruel warming your cold, numb fingers. You remember reading about the siege of Syracuse during the Peloponnesian War. How the Athenians thought they would take the city easily. Historians still debate whether it was the cunning of the defenders or the arrogance of the attackers that turned the tide. You suspect it was both. The captain joins you at the cook's fire, his face lined with fatigue. We're holding, he says, though the weariness in his voice tells you how close they came to breaking. But they'll try again, you nod. Your eyes on the small girl who dips her bread into the gruel with a quiet determination. We'll be ready. You say, the healer works in the corner of the courtyard. Her hands steady and sure as she tends the wounded. She hums the same tune the girl was singing. A quiet thread of hope that wins through the cold morning. She sees you watching and offers a tired smile. One breath at a time. She says softly, that's all we can do. You help where you can, carrying buckets of water from the well, stacking firewood, your body moving through the motions of survival. It feels good to move, to have something to do besides standing watch and waiting for the next attack. The girl with the toy knife trails after you, her toy clutched tight in her small hands. She asks questions about the walls, about the enemy, about the world beyond the siege. You answer as best you can, though some answers are harder to find. A soldier shares a joke as he sharpens his blade, a wry grin on his face. I told my wife I'd be home by spring, he says, his voice light despite the dark circles under his eyes. Didn't say which spring. You laugh, the sound sharp and bright in the cold air. It feels good to laugh. The day passes slowly, the sun inching across the pale sky. The enemy is quiet, their fires banked low, their shapes blurred by the drifting snow. You watch them from the wall, your breath fogging the air, your spear heavy in your hands. The girl with the toy knife hums her tune, the sound a soft counterpoint to the crackle of the cook's fire and the low murmur of voices. It's a simple melody, but it stays with you. A quiet anger in the endless winter dot as evening falls. The captain gathers the soldiers for a quiet council. They'll come again, he says, his voice calm and sure. We need to be ready. You listen. Your body tired, but your mind alert. Every word a stone in the wall you're building round your fear. The girl sits at your feet, her toy knight in her lap. She looks up at you, her eyes wide and solemn. We'll be okay, won't we? She asks. You crouch down, your hand resting on her shoulder. We will. You say, your voice steady, as long as we stand together. The night comes, cold and sharp as a blade, the stars bright and distant in the dark sky. You take your place on the wall, your breath a white cloud in the cold air, your spear steady in your hands. The girl with the toy knight sleeps by the brazier, her small form cold round her woodland guardian. You watch her, the quiet strength in her small face a reminder of why you stand here. Night after endless night. The cook hums a tune as she stirs the fire, the healer's soft voice weaving through the dark as she tends the wounded. The captain stands at the wall, his gaze steady on the enemy's fires. The walls still stand, so do you. The cold settles deeper tonight, a biting edge that sinks into your bones and refuses to let go. You stand at your post on wall, your fingers numb round the spear, your breath a thin stream of fog in the moonlit darkness. The girl with the toy knight sleeps near the brazier, her toy tucked under her chin like a guardian in the night. She stirs now and then, a soft sigh escaping her lips. You watch her, the small rise and fall of her chest a quiet promise that tomorrow still exists. The cook brings you a slab of bread and a slice of dried meat, her hands wrapped in thick mittens. Eat, she says, her voice slow. You'll need it. You take the food with a nod, the bread cold and hard under your teeth, but it fills the hollow ache in your belly. The captain paces the length of the wall, his steps measured and deliberate. They're watching us, he says, his breath curling in the frigid air. Waiting for a crack, you nod. Though you can't see them in the darkness, you can feel them. Though the weight of their eyes, the quiet malice that seeps into the night like a poison. You remember reading about the siege of Paris during the Franco-Prussian War in 1870-71. How the Parisians ate rats and pigeons to survive. Historians still debate whether it was the iron will of the people or the incompetence of their leaders that dragged the siege out as long as it did. You think maybe it was both hunger makes strange heroes of us all. The healer joins you on the wall. Her face pale in the moonlight. She carries a small bundle of herbs. Their sharp scent cutting through the cold for your cough. She says, pressing a sprig into your palm. Chew it if it gets bad. You thank her. The bitter tang of the herbs a comfort in your mouth. The snow begins to fall again. Soft flakes that drift down like ash. It blankets the world in white, muffling the sounds of the night, turning the sharp edges of the world soft and strange. You stand in the hush of it. The girl's small breath's the only sound that matters. A soldier near you hums a soft tune, his voice low and steady, a song for the dawn. He says with a wry smile, if it ever comes, you join him. Your voice a quiet thread in the darkness, and for a moment you are more than cold and feel you are part of something. A small light in the endless dark. The girl with the toy knight wakes, her eyes wide and solemn. She looks up at you, her breath misting the air. Are they coming tonight? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. You crouch down, your hand on her small shoulder. Not tonight. You say, though you can't be sure, tonight. We rest. She nods and curls closer to the brazier, her toy knight clutched tight. You watch her for a moment, then turn back to the wall. Your body a quiet promise that no one will pass this night without your notice. The cook's voice drifts up from the courtyard, a soft song that carries through the cold. The healer hums along as she works, her hands steady and sure. The captain stands at the far end of the wall, his silhouette a dark shape against the snow. The night stretches on, each breath a struggle against the cold, each heartbeat a quiet vow. The enemy's fires burn low in the distance, their shapes blurred by the falling snow. You watch them, your eyes heavy, your mind sharp. The girl sleeps again, her small body a warm shape in the snow. You let your gaze rest on her for a moment. The sight of her soft breath a small comfort in the hard world. A soldier near you tells a joke, his voice a rough whisper in the dark. Why do we fight in the cold? He asks, a wry grin on his face. Because the sun's too busy sleeping in. You chuckle, the sound quiet but real. It feels good to laugh. The healer stops beside you, her hand on your arm. You're doing well, she says, her voice soft. We all are. You nod, though the words feel thin in your mouth. But she's right because you're still here. The walls still stand, and the girl with the toy knight still dreams. The snow falls thicker, the night deepens, but you stand your post. The cold a quiet ache in your bones. You watch the enemy fires, the slow curl of smoke in the darkness, the shadows that move and shift. The girl with the toy knight dreams on, and you stand watch over her, a silent guardian in the night. The next morning dawns grey and heavy, the snow a soft blanket over the battered world. You trudge down the steps from the wall, your boots slipping on the icy stones. The cook meets you at the bottom, her breath misting in the cold air. Breakfast, she says, handing you a steaming bowl of thin broth. It's not much, but it's warm. You thank her, cradling the bowl in your hands. The warmth seeps into your numb fingers, a quiet blessing in the frozen world. You sip the broth slowly, the salt and fat a comfort on your tongue. The girl with the toy knight appears beside you, her small face peeking out from a too large hood. She clutches her toy like a talisman, the painted wooden knight scarred but unbowed. What's in the broth? She asks, her eyes wide. Bits of carrot. You say with a smile, maybe even a scrap of meat. She grins, the small gap in her teeth shown, takes a sip from your bowl. The captain joins you, his coat pulled tight against the cold. The Scots say they're building siege towers. He says quietly, we'll need to be ready. You nod, though your stomach twists at the thought. Siege towers mean a new kind of fear, a new kind of fight. You remember reading about the siege of Constantinople in 1453. How the defenders used Greek fire to turn back the towers and ships of the enemy. Historians still debate whether it was the sheer terror of that burning liquid or the desperation of the defenders that won the day. You wonder what you would give for a secret weapon like that now. The cook taps your shoulder, her voice gentle. We'll find a way, she says. We always do. You nod. Though the cold dread in your gut is hard to quiet. The healer moves among the wounded in the courtyard, her hands swift and sure. She pauses to wrap a soldier's leg in strips of linen, her voice low and soothing. You're still here, she tells them, a quiet triumph in her tone. That means you're winning. The girl with the toy knight hums softly, her breath steaming in the cold air. Do you think they'll break through? She asks. You look at her, at the fierce hope in her small face. Not if we can help it. You say, not while we still stand. The enemy stirs beyond the walls, dark shapes moving in the snow. The air is sharp with the promise of violence, the quiet before the storm. You take your place on the wall again, the weight of your spear a comfort in your hands. The girl with the toy knight stays close, her small body pressed to your side. Will you sing to me? She asks, her voice a whisper in the cold. You smile, though your lips are cracked and dry. Of course, you say, and you begin to hum a lullaby. Your voice low and rough, but steady. The cook joins in from below, her song a warm thread in the cold morning. The healer's voice weaves through the air, soft and strong. Even the captain hums a few bars, his face turned to the enemy lines. The world is still cold, still hard, but for a moment it feels softer. The music a small flame in the dark. The girl with the toy knight leans against you, her eyes drifting closed. You watch the snow fall, each flake a tiny miracle. A soldier tells a story about the ancient Celts, how they used to paint themselves blue and charge into battle half naked. Imagine that. He says with a grin, maybe we should try and give the enemy a proper scare. You laugh, the sound bright in the frozen air. I think I'll stick with my cloak. Thanks. You reply, and the others laugh too. The sun crawls higher in the sky, pale and cold. The enemy's siege towers rise like black teeth against the snow, a silent promise of the battle to come. You watch them, your heart steady in your chest. The walls still stand, and so do you. The girl with the toy knight stirs at your side, her eyes bright. We'll be okay, she says, her voice fierce. We have to be. You nod, the weight of her words settling over you like a mantle. We will. You say, and for a moment you believe it. The cook's laughter echoes in the courtyard. The healer's quiet song a steady thread through the noise. The captain stands at the wall, his hand resting on the stone, his eyes on the enemy towers. The snow falls, soft and silent, a promise and a challenge. The day stretches on, each breath a quiet victory, each heartbeat a promise. The girl with the toy knight clutches your sleeve, her small hand warm in yours. Sing to me again, she asks. You smile. Though the world is still cold and hard, always, you say, and you begin to sing. The snow finally stops that night. The world left quiet and soft beneath the pale moon. You stand at the wall, the cold seeping through your cloak and into your bones. The girl with the toy knight curls up near your feet, her breath soft and even as she sleeps. Her toy knight rests beside her, its painted armor glinting in the firelight. The cook brings you a mug of warm ale, her hands wrapped in thick gloves. Drink, she says, her voice gentle. It'll help. You take a careful sip, the ale sweet and sharp on your tongue. The warmth trickles down your throat, a small defiance against the cold beyond the walls. The enemy is a dark shape against the snow. Their siege towers loom, silent sentinels waiting for dawn. You watch them, your eyes heavy, your spear steady in your hands. The captain joins you. his cloak wrapped tight round his shoulders. They'll come at first light. He says, you nod. Though your heart stutters at the thought, you remember reading about the siege of Orleans in 1429. How Joan of Arc's rival turned the tide. Historians still debate whether it was her courage or the desperation of the defenders that broke the English lines. You wonder if the girl with the toy knight could be your Joan of Arc, her quiet bravery a spark in the endless dark. The hero works through the night, her hands deft and sure. She stops beside you, pressing a small packet of herbs into your hand. For luck, she says, you tuck it into your cloak. The faint scent of rosemary and sage a comfort in the cold. The girl with the toy knight stirs in her sleep, her small fingers clutching at the hem of your cloak. Are we safe? She murmurs. You crouch down, your hand on her shoulder. For now, you whisper. For tonight. The cook hums a tune as she stirs the pot over the fire. Her voice a soft lullaby in the quiet night. The soldiers join in, their rough voices blending into a song that drifts up to the stars. The melody is simple, but it carries the weight of hope. A soldier near you tells a joke about the Romans, how they believed rubbing goose fat on their skin would keep them warm in battle. Think it'd work? He asks with a grin. Only if we find the goose, you reply. And the laughter is a bright spark in the dark. The girl with the toy knight opens her eyes, the firelight flickering in their depths. Will you sing to me? She asks. You nod. Your voice low and rough as you hum a lullaby. The melody weaves through the night, a quiet promise that you will keep watch as long as you have breath. The captain stands beside you, his eyes on the enemy lines. They're patient. He says, but so are we. You nod, the weight of his words settling in your chest. Patience is a weapon too. The moon sets, the stars fading as the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon. You grip your spear tighter, your heart a steady drumbeat in the cold. The girl with the toy knight stands beside you now, her small hand in yours. We're ready, she says. Her voice a soft bow. The cook tosses out hard bread and thin slices of dried meat. Her eyes tired but bright. Eat, she says. It'll be a long day. You chew the bread slowly, the crunch loud in the quiet morning. The girl nibbles at a piece of meat, her small fingers clutching it tight. The healer checks the soldier's bandages, her voice calm and steady. She pauses beside the girl, tucking a scrap of cloth into her small hand for courage. She says. The girl nods solemnly, her toy knife tucked under her arm like a shield. The captain raises his hand, and the soldiers gather, their breath misting in the cold air. Hold the walls, he says, his voice low and sure. No matter what, you grip your spear tighter. The weight of it familiar and solid. The girl with the toy knight looks up at you, her eyes bright and clear. We're ready, she says again, and you believe her. The enemy stirs beyond the walls, dark shapes moving through the snow. The siege towers groan as they inch closer, their wooden frames creaking in the cold. You watch them, your breath a quiet fog in the morning air. The cook hums her tune, the healer's voice weaving through the quiet. The captain stands tall, his hand resting on the cold stone of the wall. The girl with the toy knight grips your hand, her small body a warm anchor in the cold. The walls still stand. So do you. Dawn breaks in a pale wash of light, turning the snow to silver, the world twice. You stand at the wall, your spear heavy in your hand. The girl with the toy knight pressed close at your side. The siege towers loom larger now, each creak and groan a promise of violence. The enemy soldiers begin to move, dark shapes against the snow. Their torches flicker in the cold morning, the smoke curling skyward in them. Black ribbons. You can smell the pitch and tar, the sharp tang of burning wood. It's the scent of war, heavy and relentless. The cook's song falters as she watches the towers inch closer. She grips the handle of her ladle like a club, her knuckles white in the cold. We're ready, she says, though her voice wavers. The healer presses a hand to her shoulder. her calm a quiet anchor in the rising tide of fear. You remember reading about the siege of Masada in 73 AD, how the defenders chose death over capture. Historians still debate whether it was defiance or despair that drove them to the final act. You wonder what you would choose if the walls fell. The captain raises his hand, his voice low but carrying in the cold morning air, steady. He says, "We'll hold." You tighten your grip on the spear, the wood warm from your hands. The iron tip glinting in the weak sun dot. The girl with the toy knight leans against your leg, her small hand wrapped tight round the wooden knight. "Are they coming now?" she asks, her voice a soft tremor. You nod. "They are," you say, "but we're ready." The enemy archers move forward, their arrows nocked and ready. The first volley hisses through the air, a dark rain that rattles against the stones. You duck behind the battlements, the girl with the toy knight clutching your cloak. "Stay low," you murmur, your breath harsh in your throat. The arrows stop. A brief, breathless pause. You rise, your eyes fixed on the towers as they lurch closer. The soldiers round you shout, their voices hoarse and ragged. The cook clutches her ladle like a talisman, her eyes bright with fear. A soldier near you tells a story, his voice a rough whisper in ancient Egypt. He says, "They used crocodile poop as sunscreen. Maybe we should try it if nothing else. It'd scare them off." You laugh, the sound bright and sharp in the cold air. "I'll stick with my helmet, thanks," you say, and the soldier grins. The towers reach the walls, their ramps lowering with a crash of wood and iron. The enemy surges forward, their war cries a ragged roar in the cold morning. You brace your spear, the girl with the toy knight hidden behind the wall. The first clash is a jolt through your bones, the shock of iron on iron. The crackled wood, you fight. Your spear a steady rhythm in your hands. The enemy pushes hard, their shields a wall of iron and hate. You grunt with each thrust, each parry, the cold forgotten in the heat of the moment. The captain's voice rings out, his steady drumbeat of orders and encouragement. The healer moves through the wounded, her hands swift and sure. She presses herbs into wounds, her voice a quiet litany of comfort. "You're still here," she murmurs. "That's what matters." Her calm steadies you, even as the world shrinks to the press of bodies and the scrape of blades. The cook swings her ladle like a mace, each blow a quiet fury. She hums her tune under her breath, a steady thread of song in the chaos. "We're still here," she says with each swing, her voice a soft promise. The girl with the toy knight peeks over the battlements, her eyes wide. "You're winning," she whispers, her small voice fierce. "You're winning," you nod. Though the fight is far from over, the enemy presses closer, their faces hidden behind iron masks. You push back, your spear a defiance in the cold light. The girl with the toy knight grips your cloak, her small body warm against your leg. "I'm brave too," she says, her voice a small flame. "Like you smile, though your arms ache and your breath burns in your chest." "Yes," you say, "just like me." The sun climbs higher, the snow turning to slush under the press of bodies. The enemy falters, their line breaking as the captain shouts a rallying cry. You push forward, each step a small victory, each breath a promise. The girl with the toy knight clutches her wooden figure, her eyes bright with hope. "You're winning," she says again, and you believe her. The cook's laughter rings out as she swings her ladle. The healers calm a quiet strength in the chaos. The captain's orders cut through the roar of battle, his voice a steady anchor. The girl with the toy knight stands at your side, her small hand in yours. The enemy breaks, their line shattering like glass. You watch them fall back, their torches a flickering retreat in the snow. You stand at the wall, your breath ragged, your spear still steady in your hands. The girl with the toy knight hugs you tight, her small arms a warm band round your waist. "I knew you could do it," she says, her voice a soft triumph. You smile. Though the cold seeps back into your bones, the cook leans against the battlement, her ladle resting on her shoulder. "We'll eat well tonight," she says with a grin, or at least one. The healer joins her hands streaked with blood but her eyes calm. "We're still here," she says, and the words are a quiet hymn in the cold morning. The girl with the toy knight stands at your side, her wooden knight held high. "We're still here," she says, and the world seems a little brighter for it. The morning sun burns pale and cold, glinting on snow turned to slush by trampling feet and clashing bodies. You stand in the silence that follows, your spear tip resting in the churned earth. The girl with the toy knight clings to your leg, her breath warm against your cold skin. The cook sets a pot on the fire, her ladle clutched tight in one hand. "No rest for the living," she says, stirring the thin broth with quiet focus. The steam carries the sharp scent of onions and old bones, the promise of warmth even if the meal is thin. The captain walks the walls, his hand brushing each stone as if to reassure himself it still stands. His voice is hoarse from shouting, but when he nods at you, there's a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "Good work," he says. You offer him a tired smile in return. You remember a tale of the siege of Candia in Crete, which lasted for over 20 years. Historians still debate whether it was sheer endurance or cunning alliances that finally broke the Venetians. Here, you think, it's nothing so grand. It's cold nights, warm broth, and small hands that refuse to let go. A soldier near you rubs his hands together, his breath a white cloud in the morning air. "I hear in China," he says with a grin, "they used to fight with fireworks rockets in bamboo tubes. Think we could scare them off with a few Roman candles." You chuckle. "If we can find some bamboo, I'm game," you reply. And the soldier's laughter is a bright note in the icy air. The healer works by the fire, her hands gentle as she binds wounds and murmurs comfort. She stops beside the girl with the toy knight, tucking a scrap of clean cloth into the child's hands. "For your knight," she says with a small smile. "Even brave knights need tending." The girl's eyes are wide and solemn as she wraps the cloth round her wooden knight's arm. "He's hurt," she says softly, "but he'll be okay." You ruffle her hair, a quiet promise in your touch. "So will we." You say. The cook hums a soft tune as she ladles out bowls of broth, the melody a counterpoint to the low murmur of tired voices. The girl with the toy knight holds her bowl in both hands, sipping carefully. "Tastes like home," she says, and you wonder how a child so small can carry so much hope in her voice. The captain leans over the battlements, his breath frosting in the morning air. "They'll try again," he says. You nod. "We'll be ready," you say, though the words taste like iron on your tongue. The girl with the toy knight nestles closer to you, her small body a warm weight against your side. "Tell me a story," she whispers. You smile, though your bones ache with weariness. "All right," you say, your voice low and rough. "Let me tell you about the time the Romans tried to take Syracuse, and Archimedes turned the sun itself into a weapon." She listens with wide eyes as you spin the tale of polished mirrors and burning ships, of a man who turned light into fire and held back an empire. Historians still debate whether the mirrors were real or just legend. But tonight, it's a story worth telling. The cook sets another pot on the fire, her ladle tapping out a steady rhythm. She says, her voice as firm as iron, "You'll need your strength." You take the bowl she hands you, the broth hot and thin but filling. The girl with the toy knight eats beside you, her small face determined. The captain calls the soldiers together, his voice quiet but steady. "They'll come again," he says, "and will be ready." His words settle in your bones, a promise as heavy as the stones of the wall. The girl with the toy knight holds up her little figure, her eyes bright. "My knight says we're brave," she says. You grin, though your shoulders sag under the weight of the morning. "Then we must be." You say, because nights don't lie. The cook wipes her hands on her apron. Her eyes soft as she watches the girl. You're a fierce one, she says with a smile. Just like your knight. The girl smiles back, her small teeth white in the cold. The healer finishes her rounds, her hands red with cold, but steady as she binds the last wound. Rest while you can, she says, her voice a gentle command. The day will be long, you nod. Though sleep seems as distant as the summer sun, the girl with the toy knight leans her head against your side, her breath warm and soft. Tell me more, she whispers, so you tell her of Masada again, of the final stand and the quiet defiance of those who would not be conquered. We're not them, you say softly. We're still here, she nods, her eyes bright. We're still here, she echoes. And you believe it, even if only for a moment. The cook ladles out another bowl, her voice soft as she hums her tune. The soldiers eat in silence, their shoulders heavy with weariness. The captain walks the walls, his boots crunching on the frozen slush. The healer's hands are never still, each bandage a small promise against the darkness. The girl with the toy knight curls up beside you, her small body warm against your side. We're still here, she says again, her voice a quiet vow. You close your eyes. The words a lullaby against the cold. You're still here, and for now. That's enough. The world has gone grey and white by the next dawn, as snow continues to drift through the sky, each flake a tiny whisper of cold. You stand at the wall again, your breath a white plume. The girl with the toy knight snug in your cloak like a little bird nested in winter's embrace. Below the walls, the enemy camp is quiet for the first time in days. A hush that feels heavy and uncertain. Smoke rises from their fires in thin lines, and you can almost imagine them talking in low voices. The clink of armor replaced by the crackle of frost. The cook passes by, her ladle hanging from her belt like a knight's sword. They're thinking, she says, a half-smile curling her lips. They'll try something new. You nod. We'll be ready. You murmur. Though the frost on the stones seems to echo back, will we? A soldier near you shares a grin. You know, he says, in medieval Japan, they'd build castles with curved walls to help deflect arrows. Maybe we could use a little of that right now. You chuckle, your breath turning to steam. I'll take anything. You say, even a crooked wall. The healer moves through the ranks. Her hands soft but firm, she checks the bandages, each touch a quiet comfort. She pauses by the girl with the toy knight, brushing a lock of hair from the child's face. You're a fierce little one, she says gently, and the girl grins, her small teeth bright against the cold. You remember hearing about the final days of Constantinople in 1453. How even as the walls fell, the last defenders held the breach with desperate courage. Historians still debate whether they could have held longer if the chain across the Golden Horn had been stronger. Here, you wonder if your own courage will be enough. The captain strides past, his cloak swirling in the wind. They're up to something, he says, his voice low and thoughtful. Watch the sky, you glance up, and sure enough, you see a flicker of movement cuts. Bright splashes of color against the gray sky. Tugging at the wind, the girl with the toy knight points. Why kites? She asks, her brow wrinkling. You squint, following the lines, signals. You guess, they're talking in the sky. The cook snorts. Fancy, she says. But we've got better stories. She's right. Round you, the soldiers huddle in small groups, sharing tales of ancient battles, each one a small spark of defiance. One of them leans in. Ever hear of Hannibal's elephants? He says, a gleam in his eye. Imagine one of those charging up this hill. You grin. Your laughter a crack in the cold. Let's hope the elephants are busy elsewhere. You reply below, the enemy stirs, the kites wheel and do, and the soldiers begin to move. Slow and measured, the cook tucks a rag into her belt. Her eyes bright. They're coming. She says, you set your spear against the wall. The wood of familiar weight in your hand. The girl with the toy knight stays close, her small face turned up to you. I'll be brave, she says, her voice fierce in the hush of the morning. You crouch beside her, your hand on her shoulder. I know. You say, you're the bravest of us all. The healer passes you a strip of cloth, her fingers brushing yours. For luck, she says softly, her eyes calm as the snow. You tie it round your wrist, the fabric warm and bright against the frost. We'll hold, she says, and you believe her because you must. The first crash comes as the battering ram hits the gate, a shudder that runs through the stones like a heartbeat. You brace yourself, the noise rattling in your teeth. The cook hums a low tune, each note a promise. We're still here, she murmurs. The girl with the toy knight holds her wooden figure tight, her knuckles white. They won't take us, she whispers, and you nod. Though your heart pounds like the ram at the gate, the soldiers surge forward, their shields a living wall. You fight at the breach, each thrust and parry a dance of survival. The girl with the toy knight hides behind you, her small body pressed close. You can feel her breath on your leg, a reminder that you're fighting not just for the walls, but for her. The captain's voice rises above the clash, sharp and sure. Hold the line, he shouts. His words are drumbeat in the chaos. You plant your feet, your spear steady as the world knows to the clash of iron and the taste of blood in the air. The cook's ladle arcs in a silver blur, the healer's hands never still as she moves among the fallen. The girl with the toy knight peeks over the wall, her eyes wide and bright. You're winning, she says, her voice a fierce whisper. You're winning. For a moment, you believe her. You find strength in her small voice, in the cook's laughter and the healer's calm. The battering ram hits again. But the gates hold, iron and oak singing their own defiance. The girl with the toy knight leans against you, her breath warm. Tell me a story, she whispers in the quiet lull between clashes. So you tell her of Archimedes and his burning meadows once more, of how one man turned the sun into a weapon to defend his home. She smiles, her small hands clutching the wooden knight. We'll be like him, she says. We'll be the sun, and you nod, though your arms ache and your breath burns, because in her voice you hear the truth. You'll be the sun, if only for tonight. The battering ram falls silent at last, the enemy retreating to the edge of the snow, their kites gone from the sky. The girl with the toy knight hug you tight, her small body trembling. We're still here, she whispers. You smile, though your fingers shake and your shoulders sag. We're still here, you echo, and in the hush of the morning, it feels like a promise that might hold. The night settles in round the castle like a heavy cloak, the snow still drifting through the dark air. You stand by the wall, your hand resting on the cold stone. The girl with the toy knight snuggled close, her breath a warm whisper against your chest. Below, the enemy fires glow like fallen stars, flickering and crackling as their soldiers huddle for warmth. The cook leans against the wall, her ladle tapping a slow rhythm on the stone. They'll come again, she says softly, her eyes distant and tired. They always do, you nod. Though your body aches from the day's fight, each breath a reminder that you're still here. The girl with the toy knight yawns, her small head heavy on your shoulder. Tell me another story, she murmurs, her voice soft as the falling snow. You think of the ancient city of Carthage, how it burned under Roman siege. Historians still debate whether the salted earth was real or just a bitter myth. Once, you begin, your voice low and warm. There was a city that refused to bow. Even as the world turned to ash round him, the girl listens, her eyes bright in the moonlight. Like us, she says, we won't bow. You smile, though your heart feels heavy with the weight of so many stories and so many nights. The healer moves among the wounded, her hands sure and gentle, Rest, she says to each of them. Though you can see the weariness in her own face, she stops beside you, pressing a warm cloth into your hand. For the girl, she says, for the brave knight. The cook hums her low songs, she ladles out thin broth. The steamer comfort in the icy air. She glances at the girl with the toy knight and winks. Don't worry, she says, we're still cooking. A soldier nearby laughs softly. Remember the ancient Egyptians, he says, his voice a tired grin. They used to put crocodile poop in their sunblock, some real medieval skincare routine. You chuckle, shaking your head. Better than freezing, I suppose, you reply, and the girl giggles, her small hand gripping your sleeve. The captain stands at the gate, his breath fogging in the cold night. They'll test us again at dawn, he says quietly, but the walls will hold. You believe him because you must, because the alternative is a darkness too deep to face. The girl with the toy knight nestles closer, her small body warm against yours. Do you think they're cold? She asks, glancing at the fires below. I think they're cold, you say softly and tired. Just like us. The cook pours broth into the girl's cup, her hand steady. Eat, she says gently. It'll warm you from the inside out. The girl sips, her lips pink with the heat. Tastes like hope, she says, and you smile, though your hands are shaking. The healer sits for a moment beside the cook, her hands wrapped round a steaming cup. They're desperate, she says quietly. Desperate men do foolish things. You nod, your eyes on the fires below. We'll be ready, you say, though the words feel like a prayer. The snow keeps falling, each flake a small, cold miracle. The girl with the toy knight closes her eyes, her head heavy on your shoulder. Tell me another, she murmurs. So you tell her of the great library of Alexandria, how knowledge burned and was lost to the sea of time. But not all stories are gone, you say softly. Some live on in the telling. She sighs, her breath warm. We'll tell them all, she whispers. We'll remember, and you promise her, though your own memories feel like shadows in the snow. The cook finishes her song, her voice a gentle echo in the cold. She sets her ladle down, her eyes on the girl. Sleep, she says softly. Sleep while you can. The girl with the toy knight nestles into your cloak, her toy clutched close, and you hold her, your own eyes heavy. The healer rises, moving through the shadows with quiet grace. She stops by the gate, her hand on the captain's shoulder. Be kind to yourself, she says softly, and the captain nods, though his eyes are hard and bright. The cook hums as she tends the fire. Each note a small comfort in the hush. The soldiers sleep in fits and starts, their bodies cold against the cold stone. You close your eyes for a moment, the weight of the night pressing in. The girl stirs, her small voice a whisper. We're still here, she says, and you nod. Your breath a vow in the freezing dark. We're still here, you echo, though the cold seeps through your bones. Below, the enemy fires glow brighter for a moment, a flicker of red against the white snow. You watch them, your spear close at hand. The girl with the toy knight a small warmth in the endless night. And in the hush of the falling snow, you hold the girl close, your breath slow and steady. You're still here, and for tonight. That's enough. Morning rides slow and silver, the light creeping across the frost like a shy guest. You wake to the hush of the castle stream, the soldiers shaking sleep from their bones, their breath clouds in the cold air. The girl with the toy knight sleeps heavy against your chest, her small face soft in the pale light. The cook is already up, her ladle clinking against the pot as she stirs the morning broth. Good morning, she says softly, her eyes crinkling with a tired smile. Or as good as it gets. You ease the girl down beside the fire. Wrapping her in your cloak, she mumbles in her sleep, her toy knight still clutched tight in her small fist. The healer kneels beside her, checking the girl's pulse with a gentle hand. She's strong, she says quietly, her breath a thin wisp in the dawn air. Like the rest of us, the captain paces by the gate, his eyes scanning the horizon. They're moving. He says in a low voice, another assault. Soon, you nod. Though your shoulders ache and your head throbs with the weight of too many sleepless nights, we'll be ready, you murmur. And the captain gives you a sharp look. We better be. The cook ladles out steaming cups of broth. The scented comfort in the cold. Drink, she says, handing you a cup. You'll need every bit of warmth you can get. You take a sip. The salty broth a small comfort, and you share a smile with her. Better than crocodile poops on screen. You tease, and she snorts. Her laughter a bright crack in the dawn. I'll take that as a compliment. The girl with the toy knight stirs, her eyes fluttering open. Are we safe? She asks, her voice small and hopeful. You crouch beside her, your hand warm on her shoulder. We're together. You say, that's what matters. She nods, though her fingers tremble as she holds her toy. The healer moves among the soldiers. Her hands quick and sure as she ties fresh bandages and checks for fever. She pauses by you, her eyes soft. You're still here, she says quietly. That's something, you nod. Though the weight of those words settles heavy in your chest, a horn sounds from the enemy camp. A long, low note that echoes across the snow. The girl with the toy knife flinches, and you take her hand. It's just noise, you say softly. We're stronger than noise. The cook hefts her ladle like a weapon, her grin crooked. Let them come, she says. I've got enough broth to drown an army. A soldier laughs, though the sound is then. I'd pay to see that, he says, and you smile, though your hands shake on your spear. The captain joins you at the wall, his eyes dark. They've brought ladders, he says quietly. They'll try to climb. You glance at the wooden rungs snaking up from the snow. We'll push them down. You say, though your voice wavers, we'll push them down again and again. The girl with the toy knight tucks the wooden figure into her belt, her chin lifting. I'll help, she says fiercely. You crouch beside her, your breath warm in the cold. You already are. You say softly, and she nods, her small face resolute up below. The enemy lines up, shields raised, ladders hefted high. The captain raises his hand, and the archers knock their arrows, the fletchings bright as winter berries. Hold, he says, his voice low and calm. Hold until they're close enough to see your breath. You grip your spear, your heart a drum in your chest. The girl with the toy knight stands beside you, her eyes wide and unblinking. The cook hums her low song. The healer's hands steady as she tends the wounded. The first ladder hits the wall with a jarring crash. Wood on stone. You brace your spear and push. The world narrowing to the weight of the ladder and the shouts of the enemy below. The girl with the toy knight presses close, her small hands gripping the hem of your cloak. A soldier beside you shouts as an arrow finds a gap in his armor. His cry sharp in the cold air. The healer is there in an instant, her hands calm as she presses a cloth to the wound. Breathe, she says softly, and he does, though his face is white with pain. The ladders come again and again, each one a heartbeat of fear and fury. You push them back, your spear slick with snow and sweat, your breath ragged in your chest. The girl with the toy knight watches, her eyes bright, her toy clutched like a talisman. You remember hearing about the siege of Orleans in 1429, how a peasant girl led the charge that broke the siege. Historians still debate whether her visions were divine or the desperate dreams of a girl who refused to bow. You think of that now. The girl beside you, the weight of her small hand on your cloak. The captain's voice is a roar above the clash. Hold, he shouts, his sword flashing in the pale light. Hold, and you do, because there's no other choice. The cook swings her ladle like a flail, each crying a promise. We're still here, she shouts, her voice bright and wild. The healer moves through the chaos, her hands never still, her face calm as the snow. The girl with the toy knight shouts too, her small voice fierce in the din. "We're still here," she cries, and the words are a shield, a light in the dark. You push the ladder back one more time, your arms screaming with the effort. The enemy falls away, their shouts fading into the snow. The captain lowers his sword, his breath ragged. "For now," he says softly, "we're still here." You crouch beside the girl, your hand on her shoulder. "We're still here," you echo, and in the hush of the falling snow, it feels like hope. The night settles in round the castle like a weary sigh, the sky streaked with the last light of day. You stand by the wall, your body aching from the fight. Each breath a reminder of how fragile this moment is. The girl with the toy knight rests beside you, her small hand in yours, her eyes bright in the fading light. The cook hums her low song as she stirs the evening broth, her ladle moving slow and steady. "You're still standing," she says with a crooked grin. "That's worth a feast if you ask me." You chuckle softly, though your shoulders ache and your head throbs. "I'll take a feast," you murmur, and she winks, her song rising in the cold air. The healer tends the wounded by the fire, her hands quick and sure. "Rest," she says to each of them, her voice a quiet comfort. "You're safe for tonight." She pauses by you, her eyes soft. "You too," she says gently. "Even heroes need sleep." You smile, though sleep feels like a luxury you can't afford. The captain paces the wall, his eyes scanning the dark horizon. "They're pulling back for now," he says, his voice slow, "but they'll come again." You nod, though your heart feels heavy in your chest. "We'll be ready," you say, and he clasps your shoulder, his hand warm. The girl with the toy knight tucks the wooden figure into her belt, her small face serious. "I'll keep watch," she says, "just like you." You ruffle her hair gently. "You're braver than most," you say, and she beams, though her fingers tremble. You think of the siege of Constantinople in 1453, how the city fell despite its high walls and proud defenders. Historians still debate whether the breach was fate or folly. You wonder if they'll speak of this castle in hushed tones one day. Your story, just another whisper in the dark. The cook ladles out broth for the soldiers, her voice warm and teasing. "Eat up," she says. "We'll need every scrap of strength for tomorrow." A soldier laughs, though his face is pale. "Broth is the food of champions," he says, and the cook winks. "Better than crocodile poop." At least, the healer sits beside you for a moment, her hands wrapped round a steaming cup. "You're carrying a lot," she says softly, her eyes kind. "Let me share the weight." You nod, though you don't know how to let go of the burden you carried for so long. The girl with the toy knight snuggles closer, her small head warm against your shoulder. "Tell me a story," she murmurs, her voice soft in the quiet. So you tell her of the lost city of Atlantis, how it vanished beneath the waves. Some say it's just a myth, you say, your voice a hush in the cold air. But I like to think it's waiting to be found again. The girl smiles, her eyes bright. "We'll find it," she says firmly, and you laugh, though the sound is weary. "We'll find it," you promise. The cook joins you by the fire, her ladle tapping a slow rhythm against the pot. "We're still here," she says, her voice low and steady. "That's all that matters," you nod, though the snow keeps falling, each flake a tiny dagger of cold. The captain leans against the wall, his face lined with exhaustion. "We're holding," he says softly. "For now." You look out at the quiet night. The enemy fires just a flicker in the distance. "For now is enough," you say. The healer moves among the wounded, her touch a balm in the darkness. "Sleep," she whispers to each of them. "Tomorrow will come soon enough." She pauses by you, her eyes meeting yours, you too. She says gently, You are not made of stone. You nod. Do you feel as brittle as the snow? The girl with the toy knight curls closer, her breath warm in the cold night. We're still here. She murmurs, and you close your eyes. The words a soft comfort. We're still here. You echo. Do your bones ache with the weight of a doubt below? The enemy is quiet. Their fires guttering in the dark. You wonder what they're thinking. What stories they tell themselves as they stare up at the cold walls of your castle. You wonder if they're as tired and cold as you are. The cook's song trails off. Her voice a gentle echo in the hush. Sleep, she says softly. Her ladle still. Sleep while you can. The girl with the toy knight closes her eyes. Her toy clutched tight, and you hold her close. Your breath slow and even. The captain's voice is a whisper in the dark. We'll see tomorrow, he says. And you nod. Though tomorrow feels like a lifetime away. We'll see tomorrow. You say softly, Dot, and in the quiet of the falling snow, the girl with the toy knight sighs, her breath warm against your chest. We're still here, she murmurs, and in that moment, you believe it to Dot. Dawn arrives slow and sudden, the sky streaked with the pale promise of light. You wake to the crackle of the cook's fire and the slow murmur voices. The castle string back to life in the chill of the morning. The girl with the toy knight is already up. Her small face intent as she polishes her wooden soldier with a scrap of cloth. He needs to be ready, she says seriously. For whatever comes next, you smile. Though your heart feels heavy with the weight of too many days that start the same way. The cook passes you a steaming cup of broth, her ladle moving in slow circles, breakfast of champions. She says with a wink, better than crocodile poops on screen. Right. You laugh softly, the sound a small relief in the cold air. I'll take broth over crocodile poop any day, you tease. And she grins, her eyes warm. The captain stands by the wall, his breath a white cloud in the icy dawn. They're gathering again. He says quietly, his eyes on the distant lines of the enemy. They'll come today. You nod, your fingers tightening round your spear. Let them, you say, though your voice is a whisper. We're still here. The healer moves among the wounded, her hands gentle and sure. You'll stand, she says softly to a young soldier, her fingers brushing a fresh bandage. You'll stand because you must. She pauses by you, her eyes kind. You'll stand too, she says. I know it. The girl with the toy knight tucks the wooden figure into her belt, her chin lifting. We're ready, she says, though her voice is small. You crouch beside her, your breath warm in the cold. You're stronger than you know. You say softly, and she nods, her eyes fierce. The captain joins you at the wall, his sword in his hand. We'll hold as long as we can, he says, and you nod, though the weight of those words is a stone in your chest. We always have, you say. The enemy lines up below, their shields bright in the pale light. You can almost see the glint of fear in their eyes, the tremor in their hands. You wonder if they see it in you too. The cook hums her low song as she stirs the pot, her voice a gentle comfort in the cold. We're still here, she says softly, and you nod, your eyes on the distant enemy. The ladders come again, scraping up the stone walls like fingers in the dark. You brace your spear and push, the weight of it heavy in your hands. The girl with the toy knight stands beside you, her small face fierce, her toy clutched tight. The captain shouts above the clash, hold. He cries, his voice a bright flame in the chaos. Hold the wall, and you do, though each shove and thrust steals your breath. Each heartbeat a promise. His soldier beside you slips, his spear falling from numb hands. The healer is there in an instant, her touch of balm. Breathe, she says softly, and he does. Though his eyes are wide with fear, the girl with the toy knight shouts too, her small voice bright in the din. We're still here, she cries, and the words are a shield, a light in the dark. You remember the siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521. How a city of canals and temples fell to the steel and sickness of an empire. Historians still debate whether it was fate or force that broke the city's heart. You wonder if this place will be remembered that way. A city held together by hope and desperation. The captain's sword flashes in the cold light. The cook's ladle swings like a weapon. The healer moves through the chaos, her voice a quiet thread of calm. You push the ladder back one more time. Your muscles screaming, your breath ragged. The enemy falls away, their shots fading into the snow. The captain lowers his sword, his eyes tired but bright. For now, he says softly, "We're still here." The girl with the toy knight tugs at your cloak, her small face serious. "We did it," she says, though her voice wavers. "We're still here." You crouch beside her, your hand warm on her shoulder. "We did," you say softly, "and we will." The cook tosses round steaming cups of broth, her ladle moving slow and steady. "Drink," she says, her voice gentle. "You'll need it." You take a sip, the warmth, the small comfort in the cold. The healer sits beside the fire, her hands wrapped round a steaming cup. "Sleep if you can," she says softly. "Tomorrow will come soon enough." You nod, though sleep feels like a distant dream. The girl with the toy knight curls beside you, her toy clutched tight. "We're still here," she murmurs, her breath warm in the cold, and in that moment, you believe it too. The cook hums her low song. The healer's hands are never still. The captain's sword rests easy in his hand. The castle is quiet for now, the hush of snow and breath and hope. You close your eyes for a moment, the world soft round you. The girl with the toy knight sighs, her small body warm against yours. "We're still here," she whispers, and the words settle in your bones like a promise. The morning light is a soft glow in the sky, a pale promise that the night is over. You stand at the wall, your breath misting in the cold air, your fingers wrapped tight around the spear. The girl with the toy knight leans against you, her small face tired but resolute. "We're still here," she says softly, and you nod. The words a quiet anchor in the winter chill. The cook tosses round bowls of thin porridge, her song a low hum in the dawn. "Eat," she says gently, her ladle moving slow and sure. "You'll need it." A soldier jokes that porridge is better than crocodile poops on screen again, and the cook chuckles, her eyes bright despite the dark circles beneath them. "A gourmet meal," she says with a wink, "fit for heroes." The healer works beside the fire, her fingers quick and careful. "Another day," she murmurs to herself, though you hear her words like a prayer. "Another chance." She pauses by you, her hand warm on your shoulder. "You've done enough," she says softly, though you shake your head. "Not yet," you say, and she nods, her eyes full of quiet understanding. The captain surveys the snowy plain, his gaze steady. "They're pulling back," he says, his voice low. For now, you watch the enemy lines recede, the faint glint of metal disappearing into the white haze. For now, you echo, though your arms feel heavy and your legs tremble. The girl with the toy knight clutches her wooden figure, her small lips set in a determined line. "I'm ready," she says, for whatever comes. You crouch beside her, brushing the hair from her face. "You're braver than anyone I know," you tell her, and she smiles, a small flicker of light in the dawn. You think of the siege of Vienna in 1683, how the city's defenders held against overwhelming odds. Historians still debate whether it was the arrival of the relief army or the sheer will of the defenders that turned the tide. You wonder what story will be told of this siege, if there's even anyone left to tell it. The cook pours a little extra porridge into your bowl, her eyes kind. "Eat," she says softly. "Even heroes need breakfast." You manage a smile, though the porridge tastes like dust on your tongue. The healer hums a lullaby as she works, her voice a gentle balm in the cold. "Rest," she says to each of the wounded. her hands moving with quiet care. You're safe for now. The girl with the toy knight curls close to you, her breath a warm whisper. Tell me a story, she says sleepily. Her eyes half closed. So you tell her of the library of Alexandria, how its great halls burned and the knowledge of the ancient world was lost to the flames. Some say it was an accident. You say softly, your voice a hush in the morning quiet. Others think it was filled what those books held. You pause, your fingers tracing the rim of your bowl. Knowledge is a fire too, you murmur, and she nods, her small hand clutching yours. The captain calls out softly, his voice carrying over the quiet courtyard. We'll stand the next attack, he says, though his shoulders sag with exhaustion. We'll stand because we must, you nod. Though your bones ache and your breath comes slow, we'll stand, you say, and the words feel like an oath. The cook's song winds through the quiet, a gentle echo of hope in the cold air. We're still here, she sings softly, her ladle a slow rhythm in the pot. We're still here. The hero wraps a fresh bandage round a soldier's arm, her touch gentle. Breathe, she says softly. You're still here. The soldier nods, though his eyes are shadowed with fear. You stand at the wall as the snow begins to fall again. Each flake a tiny spark of cold light. The girl with the toy knight leans against you, her small face turned to the sky. We're still here, she whispers, and you close your eyes. The words a soft comfort in the chill dot below. The enemy stirs like a dark dream in the snow. The captain tightens his grip on his sword. The cook sets down her ladle. The healer stands with her hands still. You brace your spear against the stone, your breath slow and steady. The girl with the toy knight presses her small wooden soldier into your hand. For luck, she says softly, her eyes bright. You smile, though your heart aches. For luck, you agree. Tucking it into your belt, the cook hums her song. The healer's hands are never still. The captain's sword gleams in the dawn. You stand together in the cold morning light. The walls round you a fragile promise, and in the hush of snow and breath and hope, the girl with the toy knight sighs, her head resting on your shoulder. We're still here, she murmurs, and the words settle in your bones like a promise. You look out at the enemy lines, your fingers wrapped tight round the spear. We're still here, you whisper, your breath a quiet echo in the cold. And in that moment, you believe it to as the snow falls soft and slow. The castle fades into a gentle hush. The girl with the toy knight sleeps at your side, her breath warm and even. The cook's song trails off, a lullaby caught in the cold air. The captain's eyes are closed, his sword resting in the snow. The healer's hands are folded in her lap, her touch still and kind. You close your eyes, the weight of the days slipping from your shoulders like a heavy cloak. The world softens round you, the walls of the castle blowing into a quiet dream. You breathe deep, the cold air filling your lungs, the slow beat of your heart steady in the hush dot in the distance. The enemy's fires gutter and fade. The sky a soft glow above the white. You let yourself drift in the quiet, the memory of the siege a gentle ache. The girl's small hand is warm in yours, her toy knight a tiny promise of hope. The cook hums one last note. The healer's hands are a final comfort. The captain's whisper is a soft promise. We're still here, and in the slow hush of snow and breath, you believe it. You let the world glow around you. The soft crackle of the fire lullaby in the dark. You let the quiet settle in your bones. The gentle promise of dawn a soft comfort in your heart. The siege is not over, but for this moment, you are safe. For this moment, you are whole, and in the slow hush of snow and breath, you close your eyes and let the world fade. Good night.